Episode 21. I'm just not interested. Even as Evelyn stared at him, all she wanted to do was grab a saw and cut him in half. That was how despicable she thought he was. Who the heck would just grab a girl like that? Harvey knew that she was probably scolding him in her heart, but he really couldn't care less. In fact, he was in a pretty good mood. Picking up his fork, he stopped pestering the young woman and began to eat. After eating a few mouthfuls, Harvey looked at Evelyn, only to find her stealing glances at him from time to time. She was still munching on her pudding, but there was a sense of nervousness flashing across her eyes. He didn't really understand what she was doing at first. Did she just find him handsome? Ha! He scoffed at the thought. It was only after a few more mouthfuls did he finally understand what she was looking for. The woman wasn't saying anything, but she was already getting impatient. It was obvious that she was waiting for him to give his critiques. The corners of his lips twitched. It really wasn't that hard to read her expression. Taking a sip of the soup, he frowned. The fish head soup. What's wrong? It's not very good, is it? Evelyn's face immediately fell. If it isn't good, then you shouldn't drink it anymore. My cooking skills probably aren't the best. I could ask someone else to cook it for you, though, if you'd like the same dish. She stared at him in anticipation. She knew that the fish head soup was quite delicious, but with his expression, could it be that she had added the wrong ingredient? Had she put too much salt? Harvey couldn't help but laugh in his heart. The woman really was as stubborn as a mule. How could an ordinary woman be like this? However, he could really tell from the way her gaze was shifting that she was doubting herself. She must be wondering what ingredient she had gotten wrong. He couldn't help but find her cute. He rarely used the word cute to describe a woman. He gazed at her for a while before chuckling. Did I say that it was horrible? I was just going to say that the soup was surprisingly good. He stirred the soup in his bowl with a smile. Why don't I hire you to work as a private chef at my place? She heaved a sigh of relief. A proud smile slipped onto her lips. That's how much you like my cooking? Taking a sip of water, her grin widened. Thanks, but I can't possibly work as your private chef. If she really became his private chef, then the man would definitely torture her to death. Besides, she couldn't get closer to him anyway. They were two people from two different worlds. While he was used to all the glitz and glamour, she was more used to street food and calm walks. If she stepped any closer towards his world, it would just mess everything up. What she really wanted was to take a few more odd jobs till she reached her goal. Once she did, she'd open up a custom-made clothing store. Later in the years, she'd prepare a savings account for her brother's marriage. If she ever met a good person one day, a man who'd love and cherish her, then she'd live her ordinary life with him. She had imagined such a simple and drama-free life. Interacting with Harvey any further felt like she was jeopardizing the dream she had already planned out. Well, the best she could do now was sit and wait. Maybe tomorrow he'd find this teasing and flirting boring that he'd soon move on to newer and better things. Then they could pretend that they never existed in each other's lives. You're right. You wouldn't be suitable as a private chef, he said later. See? Perhaps he was already getting the clear picture. What she didn't expect was for the next few words to fly out of his mouth. I think you're more suitable to be my lover. Evelyn's jaw dropped. The water she had been drinking flowed out from the corner of her lips. Her eyes widened, looking as if they were about to pop out from their sockets. As soon as Harvey saw what was happening, he grabbed the handkerchief and stuffed it into her hand. What are you doing? He asked, worried. Just close your mouth. She immediately came to her senses, clutching the fabric in anger. I was shocked, that's all, she snapped. What nonsense are you talking about? What was he even thinking? How could he say that? Lover? He wanted her to be his lover? If she understood correctly, that meant that they would simply be sleeping together in the dark. Even if he had a girlfriend, she'd still be his little fling. Once he's married, she'd still be the same thing. He would come back to his family during holidays and festivals, and he'd never truly recognize her. He'd only come to her when he wanted to be pleasured. Harvey would keep her in the penthouse. Everything she could have asked for, he'd likely have it made for her. But that would just mean a life of suffering and neglect. Her hands trembled. Was he crazy? On the other end, Harvey furrowed his eyebrows in confusion. No matter how many women he had slept with, he had never really offered anyone to be his lover. What made him say that just now? It was a little strange, but what was even more strange was the reaction he received from the woman sitting in front of him. His eyes narrowed. What was wrong with her? Even if he were to call her his lover, she shouldn't have had such a reaction. She was supposed to be shy and excited, not disgusted and confused. He was Harvey, after all. Not only did she have a funny expression, but she looked like she didn't want to be with him. Don't talk such nonsense. She dismissed him as if she were talking to a child. Was she really that repulsed by the idea of being with him? You really don't want to? He blinked in surprise. Every time he'd made a request, anyone in the world would think twice before rejecting him. Yet this woman, why did she reject him? If they were together, she didn't have to worry about all the necessities. Whatever she requested, he'd have it all wrapped up and prepared. Even if he had not been the richest man in New York, he still had his figure, appearance, his undeniable charm. He was a catch. As soon as she heard these words, she shook her head. I've never really seen a man like you, you know. Harvey knew that she meant to insult him, but he quickly said, Of course you've never seen a man like me. After all, you wouldn't even have been able to meet someone like me in your lifetime if you hadn't been stalking me. Of all the things he could have brought up, he brought up this? Fine. She was the one who had stalked him first, but it wasn't her fault that he kept pestering her as an aftermath. If she remembered correctly, he was the one who seemed to pop up everywhere she went. In the past, she had thought that meeting a man like Harvey was something that could happen once in her lifetime and never again. Now it seemed as if she could see him everywhere she looked. Not bothering to continue this boring topic with him, she glanced at her watch. Just continue eating, Mr. Cage. She took a step back. I'm going back to work, all right? He frowned. You haven't answered my question. Did she really just ignore him? She furrowed her eyebrows. What question? About being my girlfriend. Weren't we just talking about this? Are you deliberately not answering? His frown deepened. It looked like Evelyn was genuine. She didn't want to accept Harvey's offer. The thought of rejection made him feel uneasy. Why would she reject him? It wasn't as if he was going to harm her or anything. This was the first time he'd ever met a woman like her, a woman who had the guts to say that she wasn't interested in him. Even Mia, the woman whose face was as cold as ice, had fallen head over heels for him. She simply thought that if she pretended to be uninterested, he'd notice her more, that her indifference would make him want her. It was a stupid trick, and he liked her even less than the women who threw themselves at him. But Evelyn was different. She wasn't the slightest bit interested in him. She was a little annoyed, but assumed that he was just joking. But when she looked at his face, she wasn't so sure anymore. Evelyn helplessly spread her arms. Look, dating just doesn't sound like a great idea. I don't want my life to be any different because of you. And besides, you and me, we're worlds apart, you know. Harvey didn't look like he was convinced. Do you even know what it means to be my girlfriend? It's luxurious cars, enormous mansions, all the jewelry and clothes you could ever want. Whatever you ask, I'll deliver, he said slowly as if he were lecturing a child. Your brother can go abroad. He can even find a job once he gets back. All you have to do is be with me. I'll take you around the world. I've never offered this to anyone before. Evelyn tilted her head, but she didn't get angry. Instead, she murmured, It is a tempting offer. It sounded like an opportunity of a lifetime. She wouldn't have to worry about food or clothes. Hell, he'd even give her an allowance. He was telling her she could do whatever she wanted. Harvey stared at her. So, do you accept it? All she needed was to say yes. It was a win-win situation. Harvey asked little of her in exchange for what he was willing to give her. He wanted to give her the world, and all she had to do was accept. Even though what he was saying might have sounded superficial, deep inside he was still hoping that she'd say yes. Every time he'd come home, she'd be waiting with a warm home-cooked meal. She'd sit next to him on the sofa and ask him about his day. At night, she would wrap her warm arms around him. Just thinking about it was enough to calm him down. When he thought she was just about to accept, she slowly shook her head. I am sorry, Mr. Cage, really, but I'm just not interested. She looked at him. I want to keep doing what I am doing now. The lifestyle you're offering is all too much for me. Evelyn wasn't angry. Despite what he was saying, she didn't think he was insulting her. After several interactions, she understood Harvey wasn't the type to insult people. He had been isolated as a higher-up for so long that he didn't know how to communicate what he wanted to say. Besides, what he just said was true. He could give her anything she wanted. She just didn't want it. "Evelyn," he said impatiently, "are you that stupid? Or are you just too smart for your own good?" Regardless of whether she was naive or intelligent, he knew for a fact that she wasn't like anybody else. She may think that he didn't understand her, but he did. She's forced to live an ordinary life. When the day comes and she's able to break free from it, she will, and she'll soar even higher. As soon as Harvey finished his meal, she got up. "Take care, Mr. Cage. Have a good day." Just as she was about to leave, he took out $500 from his pocket and handed it to her. 500 was neither too much nor too little. It would make for a good tip. He couldn't help but feel a little strange. This was the first time he had ever considered someone else's feelings. When she saw the bills he was handing her, she blinked at him, dumbfounded. What the heck was he doing? "It's your tip," Harvey said impatiently. "What's wrong? Is it too little? I can—" No. Too little? What the hell? Frowning, she shook her head. "It's quite a lot. Thank you, Mr. Cage." His lips twisted. "You're willing to take $500, but when I tried to give you a much bigger amount the other day, you wouldn't take it. You are strange." Evelyn resisted the urge to roll her eyes. "The difference between the two is that I earned this. The money you gave me the other day was because you felt sorry for me. I don't want your pity." "It's money. Does it matter?" Harvey scoffed and walked out. Evelyn stared at his back as her thoughts drifted away. He wasn't the type of man who always had cash on him. He even paid for this meal using his black MasterCard. That meant that the $500 cash he had given her was something that he had prepared beforehand. She felt weird holding those bills in her hand. What type of man was he? When she rejected him, she expected him to fly into a deep rage. Yet, it seemed like he didn't mind her response at all. She was confused, as she really couldn't read the man. At 3 p.m, Evelyn's shift was finally over. She changed into her clothes and walked out of the restaurant, only to bump into Cindy on the way. "Hey, what are you doing here?" Her friend cocked up an eyebrow. "I know you would get off work around this time. Now let's go." "Wait, where are you taking me?" "Where do you think?" Cindy lifted her sunglasses. "We're going shopping." Evelyn frowned. "I just want to go home and get some sleep." "Oh, cut the crap. It's been months since we've gone shopping together." With a frustrated sigh, she dragged her into the car. "We're going whether you like it or not." While Cindy came from a very prestigious family, she wasn't extravagant. She didn't like shopping at Fifth Avenue for all the luxury brands. Instead, she preferred shopping in East Village, a lower-class but hip area. After majoring in economics, she had become more conservative in her spending habits. When they finally reached the area, her friend pulled her around the block. They tried on some clothes, and once Cindy paid for it, she turned to Evelyn. "So, how are you and Mr. Cage? Has he caused you any trouble since then?" She slowly shook her head. Perhaps it was the other way around. "No, he didn't come back after that incident," she lied. She didn't dare tell her that Harvey came looking for her every day. If she told Cindy that, this woman would have gone up to him and chewed him out, even if it meant risking her life. Cindy sighed in relief. That's good. Maybe he's too busy to have time to bother you. I heard the Cages were adding some stalls around here, too." She looked around. "They say the mall gave them a couple of floors to sell their brands." Evelyn blinked. Right. The Cages were also part of the fashion industry. Not only do they sell luxury clothes, but they also sell fine jewelry. She forgot how classy that man was. The Cage Group was said to be a benchmark in the fashion industry. Every fashion designer dreamt of having their clothes featured in one of their stores. If Evelyn hadn't met Harvey before, she would have been beyond ecstatic to look at all their stores from afar, because she couldn't even dream of being able to afford anything they sell. But now that she had met him, she had no interest in the Cage Group whatsoever. If he was that busy, then how did he find the time to torture her? Cindy grabbed one of the coats from a hanger and waved it up in the air. "What do you think of this?" "I think it's nice." Evelyn bit her lips absent-mindedly. "Cindy, if he's opening his stores on the upper floor, do you think he'll come to the opening personally?" She nodded. "Of course. He's pretty serious about his work." she said, slowly looking down. He's always present on the first day to make sure everything's well adjusted, from the lights on the ceiling to the design of the counter. I even heard he'd choose the tiles himself. Evelyn's eyes widened. Harvey? The same man who was so shameless in front of her? She'd never thought that he took work so seriously. She never really associated him with the man behind the Cage Group. How was he at work? Was he that serious about everything? Was he diligent? Or was he the same as he was with her? As the thoughts soared through her mind, Cindy's phone started ringing. She glanced at the screen, and a strange expression flashed across her face. Give me a few seconds. By the end of the call, her mood completely changed. Whose call was it that made Cindy's mood turn sour? Was another storm brewing, ready to wreak havoc in their lives? Episode 22, Long Time No See. Seeing the change in Cindy's mood, Evelyn said, "If there's something you need to do, we can go back. I don't need to buy anything." "No, it's not that. It's—" Cindy took a deep breath. There was a few seconds of silence before she finally said, "I haven't told you yet, but my brother is back. It was he who called. His wallet is in my car, and—" Evelyn tensed up. She was still smiling, but her eyes betrayed her worry. Ah, so he's back. A sharp pain shot through her heart, and she could feel her stomach stir with anxiety. Who would have thought that a name would be enough to screw up her entire mood? Cindy's brother, Timothy, was her first love. Evelyn had loved him for 5 years, but he never felt for her the same way. "I could have given you everything," she had said, shaking. "I can't live without you." But Timothy took a step back with a strange expression on his face and shook his head.
"Of course you could have,"
he had whispered.
"Find your happiness, Evelyn. I'm sure you will. Your heart should belong to someone who will love you."
Thinking about it now, he was right. She was already living her best life without him, and perhaps she had him to thank for it. Her body, her heart, none of them belonged to Timothy anymore. They were hers. He was nothing more than a shadow of her past. She had already moved on from the pain he had caused her. "Hurry up and give him his wallet," Evelyn said with a faint smile. "Then wait for me. I'll be back soon." Cindy rushed away. She watched her friend leave, still in a daze. Events from years ago flashed in her mind, and somehow it all felt like it had happened yesterday. Timothy had always had a gentle smile. He could calm the surrounding seas with just a gaze. That man was like a blast of color in her simple life. Her heart skipped a beat. It was February 14th, a snowy day. She still remembered the first time she confessed to him, "I love you, Timothy. I don't care if you don't love me. I still love you." It was the most courageous thing she'd ever done. She thought loving him was enough to overcome anything. If he were a cloud, then she wanted to reach for the skies. If he were a sea, then she wanted to drown in him. To her, he was the best person in the entire world.
"Evelyn, look. You're like a sister to me, okay? Don't you see? I've been changing girlfriends left and right just to keep you away. You're exhausting me."
His gaze softened.
"Find your happiness. I'm sure you will someday, okay?"
Shaking her head, Evelyn stared at her feet. Even though it happened years ago, it felt like yesterday. She scrolled through the photos in her phone to distract herself. Just then, she spotted a familiar face in the crowd. She stared at the tall figure in a daze. The man was saying something to another person behind him as they were walking in her direction. His tall body exuded confidence and a flair of professionalism, one she wasn't familiar with. His silver white suit fitted him well, making him look elegant and stylish. The surrounding people had serious looks on their faces as they hung onto every word he said. Her heart skipped a beat. It was Harvey. Who would have thought that he'd be so different at work? Had he always been this serious? Evelyn couldn't help but stare at him from afar, not able to look away. It was only when he looked in her direction did she jump up and hide behind one of the poles. Her heart was racing in her chest. Why did she hide? It wasn't like she did anything wrong. It was his fault anyway. Who told him to change his appearance and surprise her? On the other side of the room, Harvey couldn't help but frown. Why did he feel like he just saw Evelyn in the crowd? Then again, knowing her, she wouldn't be in a place like this.
"What's wrong, Mr. Cage?" Zach glanced at him. "Did you see someone?" "It's fine." He shook his head. "Let's look around." Evelyn stayed hidden behind the pole until she was sure that the man had left. Once they were all gone, she breathed a sigh of relief and sat on a bench beside her. Why did the world feel so small? Back then, she had always wondered where all the rich and famous people were hanging out. Now she saw Harvey wherever she went. They had only met a couple of hours ago, and now again. As soon as she saw him, all memories she had of Timothy faded to the back of her mind. She glanced at her phone and continued scrolling through the photos. Soon, Cindy came back. Evelyn had already composed herself by then. "Are you done? Should we continue the walk?"
Evelyn, Cindy said carefully, "are you okay?"
What? Why?
It's...
Cindy didn't want to look her in the eye. Evelyn finally understood what she wanted to say. Cindy must have been worried that she'd be hurt by her brother's return. Afraid that Cindy would misunderstand her, she immediately said, "I'm fine. Besides, it's already been a few years. How is he anyway? Is he doing well?" Cindy sighed deeply.
"He's doing well."
"That's good," said Evelyn, pretending to be relaxed. "Shouldn't he be planning to get married already? If he waits for too long, all the good girls will be taken." While her heart was heavy with pain, the words slipped out of her lips so easily. If it were 3 years ago, she would have screamed in pain at the thought of him loving someone else. Cindy said with a faint line,
"You know, I never really understood why he rejected you. He'd always been so nice to you," she said slowly. "I thought you two would end up together."
She blinked heavily. "I don't know either." Perhaps Evelyn didn't have the right to think about it at all. After all, he never loved her. Cindy must have felt that the atmosphere was becoming heavy and was quick to change the subject.
"Forget it," she murmured. "He can go to hell. I'm hungry. Why don't we go eat at Le Bernardin?"
That was enough to knock her out of her thoughts. "Do you know how expensive that restaurant is?"
"Who cares?" Cindy chuckled. "I'm rich. Now let's go."
Evelyn had no choice but to follow. It was probably the best decision she had made, because the two ended up talking and laughing along the way. She didn't even think about Timothy anymore. When they were done eating, Cindy paid the bill and offered,
"Why don't I drive you home? I'm sure you're exhausted after the day you just had."
"It's not a problem. I don't want you to bother." Despite Cindy insisting, she still went home by herself. She took the bus. Basking under the afterglow of the sunset, she leaned her head against the window and closed her eyes. Perhaps being reminded of Timothy made her dream of him when she dozed off. On the bus, she imagined leaning on his shoulder, breathing in his aftershave. He didn't say a word, just flipped through his book. Time slowed down around her. Suddenly, the bus stopped, and a familiar figure poked her through the window. He walked up to them, stood right in front of her and Timothy, and she couldn't help but raise her head. There she saw Harvey's stony gaze glaring right at her. "How dare you cheat on me behind my back?" She froze, then suddenly woke up. What the hell was she dreaming about? The lingering fear pulsed in her heart as she looked around. How could she be having dreams like that? Not only was Timothy in her dream, but Harvey too. She wasn't his girlfriend. She had nothing to do with any of them. What the heck? Just thinking of them was a disgrace in itself. Evelyn felt disgusted as she thought about it. She slapped her cheeks a couple of times to wake herself up. "Forget it," she murmured to herself and got off the bus. But her thoughts kept going back to that dream as she strolled towards the residential area. The sunset became even brighter. The orange and red light filled the sky, scattering across the green leaves. All she wanted to do was take a hot bath, have a nice dinner, and her life would be perfect. She was still walking down her street when a voice startled her. "Evelyn!" The voice was enough to calm a wild boar. Her entire body tensed up. It had been years since she heard his voice. Even now, it was still as soft as bells and as sweet as honey. For a long time, she had only heard this voice calling out to her in her dreams. But now it was time to face the reality. Evelyn turned around. The summer wind was blowing in their faces. He was there, standing under the tree in his well-fitted suit. Her legs wobbled. It had been so long. He looked far more mature now, and his handsome face had become even more defined. But even as she looked past his sharp jawline and big eyes, he was still Timothy. She was breathing heavily as if she had just run a marathon. Her hands were shaking, and she struggled to keep her cool. What was he doing here? "Mr. Green." After a long time, she finally smiled. "It's been a while." Timothy tensed up. "Mr. Green? Back then, she only ever called him Timmy, nothing else. Although he always said that he was older than her, she always rolled her eyes in response. I'll be your wife anyway, so I can call you whatever I want. Now it seemed they were nothing more than old acquaintances. He smiled. Long time no see, Evelyn. You've grown up. In the past, when she'd seen him, she'd always get very excited. Of course I have. Thinking about all the times she acted childish in front of him, she blushed. A smile grew on her lips. Mr. Green, why are you here? Are you just passing by? No. He shook his head. I came to find you. Her heart skipped a beat. He was looking for her? They hadn't seen each other for such a long time, so why was he looking for her now? Did he regret rejecting her? As soon as the thought popped into her head, Evelyn shook her head. No, she no longer had any unrealistic fantasies about Timothy. He couldn't want her. After so many years, she shouldn't be so naive. It's better this way. She looked up at his calm face. You're looking for me? Why? She furrowed her eyebrows. Is it about Cindy? Did something happen? He could feel his heart sinking. Had he screwed up their friendship that badly? She thinks the only reason for him to want to talk to her is if he needs something. There wasn't any anticipation in her eyes anymore. Something he had grown used to throughout the years. Time was truly powerful. It could change so many things, and it could turn a burning heart into a cold one. He had a bitter smile on his face. Everything's fine. I met Cindy at the mall today, and I knew that she was with you. I haven't seen you in a long time, he drawled. I hope you don't misunderstand my intentions. His eyes were still as calm as the ocean, and his smile was as beautiful as ever. Yet, there was something so sad about the way his eyebrows had furrowed over. Did somebody hurt him? A part of her couldn't help but wonder who would make him happy in the future. Back in the days, she was naive enough to think that she was the only one who could give him the happiness that he needed and deserved. All other women could disappear for all she cared. But as time passed, she realized that letting go was a form of love too. Now she could only hope and pray that he'd live a good life, that he'd find an exceptional woman and live happily ever after. She might not be the one for him, and that's okay. A small smile appeared on Evelyn's lips. Mr. Green, don't worry. I'm not a kid anymore. And I know that you never really treated me as anything but your sister. To be honest, I wanted to thank you, she said. Now I understand why you did it. To wake me up, to strengthen me, and to let me find happiness on my terms. I swear, I'll be fine. Timothy noticed her gentle smile and felt his heart shrieking in pain. She was so different now. Back in the day, he'd worry for her as she jumped up and down, demanding his attention. Now she was calm and collected. It was, you shouldn't worry about me anymore, instead of, I'm always worried about you. Aren't you worried about me too? Has time changed the innocent spark in her eyes? Or was he the one who changed her? His fingers twitched. He never expected her to become this quiet and reasonable, so different from who she had been. He wasn't sure anymore whether his decision that day was right or wrong. It seems you are doing well. He looked down. The smile on his face was almost gone. I don't have to worry about you anymore, do I? She blinked. Did she hear the bitterness in his tone? Or was it because he felt guilty? Yes, that must be it. As years had gone by, he must have realized how hurtful his rejection must have been. Even now, as she was looking back, she couldn't help but be a little bit embarrassed by her actions. After all, they were young. They were both childish. She made a dismissing gesture with her hand. I'm no longer the same girl I used to be. I mean it when I say I'm fine. This time, Timothy finally looked up. His smile became much gentler. If that's the case, I should head back. He shoved his hands into his pockets. I'll call Cindy and Mark one of these days. Let's all eat together. What do you think? Catch up like old times? We can do that, she grinned. Take care, Mr. Green. He stared at her for a long moment before turning away. The breeze was blowing in his face. But just as he took a few more steps, Evelyn said something. You're not getting any younger. You should find a woman to settle down with, so that Uncle and Auntie aren't worried about you. There was a pause as she hesitated. I know I was insensitive in the past, but I wish you the best. He chuckled, but he didn't turn back. I will. The light of the setting sun was shining in his face, making his silhouette stand out even more. There was a smile on his face, but it grew bitter by the second. Timothy looked sad. He didn't turn back so that she wouldn't see him like this. Timothy had always feared the day that she'd finally come to terms with his rejection, because he knew that this blessing would mean that he was finally gone from her heart. Evelyn watched him go. Only when he got into his car did she turn around and head home. Her nose was tinged red as she battled her tears. Even she couldn't believe the words that came out of her mouth. She loved him so much that she demanded him to love her no matter what. But now she finally understood. If you love someone, you'll let them go. If she couldn't give him what he wanted, she should let someone else give it to him. Even if she seemed calmer now, she couldn't help but wish someone would love her as much as she had loved Timothy. That love was as pure as snow and as strong as the waves. It was the love that she gave but never received. What would it be like if she fell for another person at some point? Could she ever love someone as much as she loved Timothy? After seeing Timothy, Evelyn felt at peace with herself for the first time in years. Harvey must have been very busy, because he didn't show up for the next few days. While a part of her was relieved, she couldn't help but wonder, what was he doing? Episode 23, Delivery in the Rain. It was Friday morning, and it was pouring heavily. Harvey stared out of the window in his office, lost in his thoughts. Zach walked into the office and saw his boss staring out the window. He pushed his glasses up his nose. The rain will probably last till midnight. You've already worked so hard these past few days. Why don't I tell the driver to take you back home? Harvey pursed his lips. He paused a moment before asking, what would you think of a man insisting on meeting a woman in this weather? I'd probably think that he loves the woman very much. Can't it be that he's just bored? That he's got nothing else to do? He raised an eyebrow. It's raining so heavily. Zach resisted the urge to roll his eyes. If he wants to see a certain woman, of all people, just because he's bored, then his life must be extremely boring. With such strong winds outside, who'd be willing to meet up with a woman just because he's bored? Harvey's face darkened. As his back was facing Zach, he couldn't see his boss's expression. After a few days of hard work, he finally wasn't as busy. He thought that he'd be able to get some rest. But now it seemed that the raindrops splattering on his window said otherwise. Thoughts of Evelyn and an urge to meet her made his mind restless. He wanted to head to Evelyn's place, not because he just wanted to see her, but because he hadn't had a decent meal in a few days. Her cooking was so good, but it seemed like nature was against him. Harvey furrowed his eyebrows, irritated. Sir, it's raining so hard today. Zach didn't know what his boss was thinking. Why don't we order takeout? It wasn't convenient to go out in such severe conditions. It was easier to eat in the office instead. Harvey stayed seated as he watched the heavy rain. The tension in the room was just too much. And Zach finally said, what do you want to eat? I'll place the order. He was still a bit gloomy, but when his assistant said that, the corners of his lips inched up into a smile. Though unknowingly, Zach had given him a great idea. He didn't need to go to her. He'd just have to get her over here. Harvey finally turned around. That's a great idea. His assistant furrowed his eyebrows. What was his boss talking about? Why did he suddenly perk up like that? It wasn't a genius idea to order takeout. Harvey didn't look like he cared. Call La Grenouille and ask them to send in Evelyn to deliver the dishes. I'll tell you what to order. Yes, sir. Zach nodded slowly. Although he was still a bit confused, he grabbed the note his boss had written for him and made the call. It was pouring, so the restaurant didn't have many customers. They were bored to death when a phone rang. Mike, one of their managers, answered. He ended the call, then gave Evelyn a meaningful look. A bad feeling welled up in her chest. What's wrong, Mike? Someone just ordered lunch. Mike smiled. You have to deliver it. Evelyn frowned, immediately pulling back. You're kidding me, right? She glanced at the window. It's raining heavily outside. Don't we have a delivery guy? The manager sighed. We do, but they specifically asked for you to deliver. I'm guessing you already know who this is for. She gritted her teeth. Harvey? Yes, he even ordered a few custom dishes. Mike sighed helplessly and waved his hand. You can deliver it once you're done cooking, okay? Her face changed. Not only did he want her to cook, but he also asked her to deliver them. Was he going to work her to death? As soon as Mike saw her expression, he blurted, "I'll give you 3 times your salary today. You don't even need to come back to work after delivering it there. What do you say?" She didn't know what to do, but the offer was too good to let go. "Fine, I'll do it." About an hour later, Evelyn stood in front of La Grenouille's entrance. With a very grumpy face, she glared at Mike. "I'm off." It was raining cats and dogs, and the taxi hadn't arrived yet. What kind of bastard does this to people? Mike smiled sheepishly. "Look, it's not my fault the taxi's probably caught in traffic. How about this? I'll give you 4 times your salary." Before she could say anything, the taxi honked behind her. It seemed like the world had already decided for her. When Mike finally went back in, he looked at the heavy rain. Perhaps it was better to close early, just so they could all take a break. Evelyn sat at the back of the taxi as they drove across the city. About half an hour later, they arrived at Cage's. Well, near the sidewalk to be precise, which was a couple of minutes' walk away from the door. She furrowed her eyebrows. "Sir, can't you park a little closer?" The driver waved his hand. "The Cage's company doesn't allow taxis to go up. I'm very sorry, but this is the closest I can take you." Evelyn cursed him silently in her heart. The rain fell on her umbrella as the wind slammed against her face. The bag was thrown around by the wind as she clutched it. She sighed. "Oh, that bastard." Gritting her teeth, she stomped towards the entrance. However, before she could even reach the gates, a car that was speeding past her stopped suddenly. It splashed all over her. Her clothes stuck to her skin as the cold rainwater dribbled down her chin. She trembled. Half of her body was drenched, and her teeth chattered endlessly. What the hell was that? Evelyn turned her head at the Mercedes-Benz RV, which was conveniently parked beside her. The door opened and 3 people stepped out. They stared at her. She was in the way. "Move! Don't block the way!" "Don't block the way," she sputtered. "You're the ones who splashed dirty water all over me! Why don't you apologize first, huh?" One man impatiently turned around. "It wasn't on purpose, okay?" he snapped. "Besides, you weren't looking at the road either. Just go to the side, okay? Isabel's getting out." What did he just say? Evelyn felt a shiver run down her spine. How could she forget the woman's name when she was the one who'd gotten her into trouble in the first place? Just then, a pair of high heels stepped onto the sidewalk. Immediately, everyone pushed their umbrellas over the woman, afraid that she would get drenched. Isabel opened her purse and pulled a few bills. She didn't even look at Evelyn as she flung a few paper bills in her direction. "Look, just take it. If you're looking to confront people, then at least choose who you're dealing with." "What confrontation are you talking about?" She clenched her hands into fists. "You're the one who screwed me over. I just want an apology." One man who looked like a bodyguard took a step forward. "Why don't you be on your way, miss? Let me handle this." Isabel pushed up her sunglasses and left her alone. Her assistant followed right behind her. "Hey!" Evelyn scowled. Just as she had regained her footing, she stepped forward, trying to block the woman. However, before she could even take a step forward, the bodyguard grabbed her hand and pulled her back. Evelyn slipped and fell onto the pavement. If she wasn't drenched before this, then she was now. The umbrella clattered onto the ground, and the lunchbox soon followed. Though the takeout box they had was sturdy, it couldn't withstand the fall, and she stared at the spilt food. "I'm warning you," the bodyguard snarled. "Just take the money and get the hell out of here. Otherwise, we'll just tell the media that you're some fanatic who was planning to attack Isabel." "You guys are going too far." Evelyn was so angry that her entire body was shaking. Her hands were scratched and red from the fall. "Oh, please, look at yourself. Pathetic," the bodyguard scoffed. "With this attitude, you shouldn't blame others for being impolite." Without another word, the bodyguard quickly chased after Isabel. The rain got even heavier, and Evelyn slammed her fists into the pavement. Her gaze fell onto the lunchbox. All this expensive food was wasted. She clenched her jaw. Why the hell was she so unlucky? Not only could she not deliver the meal, but her umbrella was now destroyed. Meeting Harvey was the worst thing that's ever happened to her. She tugged on her hair, wanting to die from frustration. "Are you okay?" someone said behind her, and she looked up, still in a daze. She saw an umbrella hanging over her head and a man with a sweet smile looking at her. He was so familiar, yet so unfamiliar at the same time. "It's you," she blinked in surprise. It was the same man who gave her the brooch. She never expected to see him again. Luke Bigman chuckled in surprise. Why is it that every time you see me, you need some help? He teased as the smile on his face got wider. Evelyn blushed, not sure what to say. She stuttered, I'm sorry, I didn't expect to see you here. I'm actually in a rush, so take this umbrella. He passed the umbrella towards her, else you might get sick. Hopefully the next time we see each other again, it will be in better circumstances. She grabbed the umbrella, but by the time she stood up, the man had already gotten into a car and driven off. She failed to ask him his name again. Evelyn stared at the back of the car, shaking her head. How can there be such a kind man in this world? She muttered to herself. Harvey doesn't even have half of this guy's kindness. She looked at the entrance of the building. The food had already been destroyed, so that meant she had nothing to deliver to him. But if she didn't show up, then he'd be furious. Besides, it wasn't her fault that the food got knocked over, was it? She sighed, frustrated. It seemed like she had no other choice but to tell him what happened, that the accident wasn't her fault. She entered the building. The moment she walked in, she could feel all eyes on her. Everyone at Cage Company was so well dressed. They all looked like they were in a rush. Evelyn, on the other hand, was drenched from head to toe. She walked to the front desk. She approached the receptionist and said softly, I would like to see Mr. Cage. The receptionist took one look at Evelyn and almost dropped her phone. What did you just say, miss? She stuttered out. Evelyn repeated, I want to see Harvey Cage. The two receptionists looked at each other. After a pause, one of them turned around and took a deep breath. Whatever happened, I'm sure it can be sorted out, okay? There is no need to do anything drastic. Evelyn furrowed her eyebrows. What were they talking about? Excuse me, what are you talking about? The receptionist didn't seem to be amused by her words. She tried her best to keep calm. Miss, you're acting weird. Where did you even come from anyway? Why are you so wet? It didn't take long for her to see what was going on. The receptionist was treating her as if she were crazy. How bad could she look for them to think she was crazy? Resisting the urge to scowl, she waved her hands up in the air. Miss, you don't understand, she rushed to explain. Look, just tell Mr. Cage that Evelyn's in the lobby, all right? I'm here to deliver his meal. Even then, the woman didn't look too convinced. Staring at her empty hands, she raised an eyebrow. Then where's the meal? Her face darkened. It was spilt on the way here. It took her an hour to cook that food. Those damn people deserve to go to hell. Not only did they drench her from head to toe, but they ruined the food. I'm sorry, miss, but... The receptionist glanced at her empty and bruised hands once again. If she called the CEO's line and it turned out to be nothing, they'd both be screwed. I really can't call him unless you have some proof. Come on, you have to understand. Their voices echoed from the lobby, and Zach heard them. He stared at the drenched woman, hesitantly at first, but when he took another step closer, he soon realized who she was. Evelyn! Was the rain that bad? What happened to her? He hurried over. Miss Petals, why are you drenched? She stared at him for a while. You are... I'm Harvey's assistant, Zach. You're here to see him, right? He slowly nodded, motioning towards the elevator. Please, come with me. Okay. Evelyn followed the man, thanking the heavens for the quick save. Who knew what would have happened if he hadn't showed up? At the elevator, Zach couldn't help but glance at her tiny figure. She was shivering, probably because of the cool air. What had made her look like this? He glanced at her hands. Wasn't she supposed to deliver a meal, too? Where was it? Despite having a lot of questions, he didn't say a word. Besides, from the looks of her furrowed eyebrows and pressed lips, she didn't seem to be in a mood for a chat either. They finally reached the top floor. Zach walked over and knocked on the double doors before turning to her. This is Mr. Cage's office. Just go in. I'll have someone send in some hot tea for you. On the other side of the door, Harvey was already pacing back and forth. She should be here by now, shouldn't she? However, before he could call up the restaurant, he could hear a faint thanks as the door was pushed open. He smiled as she stepped into the room, only to frown when he saw how she looked. What happened? He furrowed his eyebrows. Why do you look like a ghost? A ghost? Seriously? Evelyn gritted her teeth. It's a rainy day. Isn't it obvious how I ended up like this? I asked you to deliver the food. I didn't ask you to dance in the rain. The corners of his lips twitched downwards. Shouldn't they have called a taxi or something? Harvey felt annoyed towards La Grenouille. Didn't they have a car to send the food over? Even if it was raining heavily, surely they wouldn't make people suffer like this, especially their employees. She looked like she'd been swimming in a lake before heading over here. He furrowed his eyebrows, glanced at her hands, and saw that she wasn't holding anything. And where's the meal I ordered? The food you've asked for has gone down the drain, she spat out. If you want to eat, go ask Isabel for it. Harvey pursed his lips. Who is she? What do you mean, who is she? Her eyes sparkled in disbelief. Are you kidding me right now? What happened? Just as I arrived at the building, Isabel's car splashed rainwater all over me. I mean, it would have been fine if she just apologized or if she walked away, but she berated me and said that I was trying to confront her. Her bodyguard pushed me to the side, so the lunch I was holding fell on the ground. Evelyn couldn't help but stare at her red hands. It seemed they'd also been bruised from her fall. I should have just taken her money and gotten this treated in a hospital. Harvey stared at her hands. Her usually soft skin was now covered with dirt and cuts. His eyes immediately went dark. He did not know who Isabel was, but his assistant told him that this was the actress who was about to shoot an advertisement with him. While he was aware of the poor attitudes of some celebrities, this woman had gone too far. Not only did she ruin his lunch, but she injured Evelyn. That meant she was also disrespecting him. His face darkened, and he was fuming with anger. What was going on in his mind? Was he planning revenge? Isabel had no idea what was about to come her way. Episode 24. Don't Blame Me. Evelyn gritted her teeth. Was she going to get sick because of this rain? Harvey motioned her to come near him. Come here. Despite her confusion, she reluctantly walked towards him. It's not like I delivered anything. I should head back now and... If you go back like this, you'll get sick. He pursed his lips. I don't want you to blame me. Because you think so highly of yourself? She rolled her eyes. I can dry myself, thank you very much. Harvey didn't bother to listen to any of her arguments. Instead, he pulled her aside and opened the door inside his office. I have a full bathroom here, he said. You can take a hot bath first. I don't need a bath. Besides, my clothes are already wet anyway. I will go home like this. He raised his eyebrows. Oh, I wasn't asking. I swear, sometimes you can be so stubborn. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately let go of her hands and grabbed both sides of her clothes, ripping them off almost effortlessly. Evelyn didn't even have time to react as she stared at the tattered fabrics in his hands. It took only a moment. Before she could say anything, the baggy clothes she had on were on the ground, completely torn. What the hell just happened? Her face flushed dark red. Only if you had listened to me, I wouldn't have had to do this. Evelyn immediately ducked her head as her arms went to her chest. You're being unreasonable. I'll have someone get you some clothes. Harvey didn't look the slightest bit bothered by her reaction. When you're done, you can wear the bathrobe that's in my closet. Instead of thanking him, she turned towards the bathroom door. I'll just head back after I finish the bath. She didn't even wait for his reply as she locked the door behind her. He blinked, stunned by her actions. I'm the CEO of Cage Group, you know, he said. You didn't have to lock the door. It's not like I'll peek at you or anything. Please, with your character, who knows what you'll do? Harvey scowled. If I wanted to look at you, locking the door wouldn't stop me. I have the key. So, you're finally showing your true colors, Evelyn yelled out. Please, it's not like I haven't seen the rest of you. He crossed his arms over his chest, looking like a child who was denied his Christmas present. Not only have I seen it, but I've also felt every inch of you. Evelyn didn't say anything. The corners of his lips twitched upwards. Closing the door behind him, he turned to leave. As soon as she was sure that he had gone away, she stomped towards the bathtub. Might as well let herself relax while she's at it. After soaking in hot water, she could feel her shoulders sagging in relief. She sighed, letting her head sink into the water. This was the best thing that happened today. Outside, Harvey called Zach over. Prepare a few outfits for her, from head to toe. Of course. Do you have any specifications on her size and style? Zach didn't need to be a genius to know it was for Evelyn. Harvey wrote down every detail and handed the note to him. Thinking back to the blue underwear she had on, he couldn't help but smile a little. Pick one from this year's summer collection. It should be blue. Make her underwear match the color, too. Yes, sir. Just as he was about to leave, Harvey called out, By the way, someone called Isabel Fox will come over to shoot a commercial with us today, right? Which department is in charge of this? Give me a second to check. Zach glanced at his tablet. It's an advertisement for our summer outfits. Okay, I have a couple more ideas for this project. Harvey narrowed his eyes. The shooting location should be switched to the pond in the botanical garden. Make sure the pond's filled with ice. I want to highlight the subtle coolness of summer, so let the model feel it too. The fabric is pretty good with water anyway. Get every detail right. I'll check in on the set later. Zach blinked, stunned by his boss's recommendation. But there was a reason he was his assistant. He didn't ask questions, only executed them. Of course, Mr. Cage. In Harvey's office, Evelyn was still taking a bath. Harvey spent this time staring up at the ceiling. The woman was taking too long. His fingers drummed against the table as Evelyn's figure crossed his mind. He was imagining his fingers were gliding across her neck, going down her chest. He exhaled and loosened his collar and stared at the rain outside his window. The windows were soundproof, but he could hear the sound of the water. He didn't know if it was the sound of raindrops or the shower in the bathroom. Someone knocked on his door, and he reverted to his original cold expression. Come in.
Sir, I brought the clothes.
Another secretary stepped inside. Leave it there.
Okay.
The secretary left, and Harvey couldn't help but glance at the bathroom. Somehow the noises he was hearing became even louder, and he started to sweat. Was it hot in here, or was it just him? He glanced at his watch. How long was she going to stay there? Had she fallen asleep? Unable to help himself, Harvey headed to the bathroom with the clothes in his hand. How long do you need to finish up? He asked impatiently. The clothes are already here. Hurry up. The sound of trickling water finally came to a stop. Evelyn's voice echoed from the other end of the door. Just leave the clothes at the door. I'll get it myself. There was a brief pause before she warned. Stay away from me. This is my office, you know, he said. I can stand wherever I want. I don't care. You can put the clothes down and walk away, she yelled from the other side. There was silence for a couple more seconds before he tilted his head. If you keep forcing my hand like this, I'll come in. A part of him wanted to open the door. However, before he could, the door was already pulled open. There, Evelyn stood with a scowl on her face and a hairdryer in her hands. She already had his large bathrobe on. It was so loose that the fabric dragged across the floor. Seeing him so close to the door, she said, I knew you didn't have good intentions. As soon as he saw the way she was tightly covering her body, he rolled his eyes. If I wanted to see you naked, I'd strip you right now. I can scream for help, she countered. This is my turf, he scoffed. Do you think someone would come to save you? Evelyn remembered the night when they first met, and her face blushed from embarrassment. Even if she screamed at the top of her lungs, no one would come to save her. You can try it if you want, Harvey urged. Of course, she didn't dare do such a thing. Instead, she wrenched the clothes from his hands and turned around. No, thank you. Just hurry up and change your clothes, okay? Harvey raised his eyebrows, indifferent. Evelyn turned around to change her clothes. She zipped up the light blue dress and gazed at the mirror. The fabric was airy, perfect for the summer, as opposed to her baggy top and jeans. The Cage group was at the top for a reason. Their clothes were amazing. Beautiful. She twirled in front of the mirror, admiring the little glitters shining on her skirt. She couldn't help but smile as she reluctantly stepped out of the bathroom. Why did her underwear fit so well, though? As soon as she walked out of the room, Harvey nodded in appreciation. You look decent. He lied. Evelyn was the epitome of beauty. He could even say that she was more beautiful than any model he had ever seen. The light blue chiffon complemented her curves. Her cheeks were a little flushed from the hot bath. She looked ethereal. When the designer hands him the clothes, he tells a tall model to fit the fabrics on. Seeing the models in his outfits would make him feel ecstatic, but it was nothing compared to the way he felt when he saw Evelyn stepping out of the bathroom. She looked like an angel from heaven. Harvey stared at her for a while, and she couldn't help but shift uncomfortably. Why are you staring at me? He jolted up, looking away. No reason. I'll return the dress after I wash it. Evelyn let her fingers comb through her hair. Thank you, but there's no need to do that. Besides, who'd wear used clothes? Harvey waved his hand. I'm responsible for ruining your clothes today, so keep them. But this dress isn't even in the market yet, she argued. It wouldn't be good for me to wear something as exclusive as this, would it? His eyes widened. How did you know? She avoided his gaze as her fingers twiddled around the beads at the bottom. I just pay attention to the design. I haven't seen it before, so I just assumed. While Harvey said nothing, he understood where she was coming from. He'd forgotten that Evelyn used to study design in college. While he didn't know her as well as he should have, he had managed to learn a thing or two about her. Pity that she wasn't able to get her degree. If she did, perhaps she'd be more accomplished today. Oh, he simply nodded in response. Why don't you sit down on the sofa over there? Evelyn didn't understand what was going on, but sat down. At least she wasn't stubborn about this. With a sigh of relief, Harvey turned around to grab the medicine box from one of the lower cabinets. He sat beside her and took out a few ointments from the box. You have to stay still, he slowly said. At the sight, her heart skipped a beat. She didn't expect him to be so considerate. Perhaps he wasn't as bad as she thought. She sat back and allowed him to do his thing. It hurts. Be gentle. Can you not move? I'm trying my best. What the hell are you doing? Why are you scrubbing the ointment? It says to scrub. No, it says to dab. Look at my hand. It's already bleeding. Oh, just let go of me already. 5 minutes later, Evelyn held her bandaged hands close to her chest. Tears glistened in her eyes as she was glaring at him. Harvey didn't look happy either. Why are you glaring at me like that? I was trying to do the nice thing, you know. It's just that I followed the wrong instructions. Do you want me to thank you for not destroying my hand then? She said through gritted teeth. The man truly was a damned beast. Why did she even think any differently of him? Despite having taken a good bath, she was still weak. After all, it was already 1 p.m, and she still had no lunch, and she was shivering. I'll be heading back now. She stood up. He raised his eyebrows. You're going back just like that? What else do you want? It's not my fault you have nothing to eat, she snapped back. If you want to eat, ask the one who almost ran me over. Is food the only thing you're thinking about right now? Harvey pursed his lips. Before she could say anything, her stomach grumbled in response. The man widened his eyes as his gaze fell into her stomach. Her cheeks turned dark red. What are you looking at? I haven't had lunch yet. In her heart, she was already silently cursing her stomach. She wished for the ground to swallow her up already. Only then did he realize how hungry he was. He glanced at the time and pressed the button on his phone. Before he could say anything, Zach already stepped into his office. Mr. Cage, what can I do for you? What do you want to eat? Harvey glanced at Evelyn, but she only ducked her head in response. At her silence, he turned back to his assistant. Call the Mexican restaurant nearby to send some food over. Be sure to order a few desserts, too. Of course. He bowed. But do you still want to see the location for the photo shoot? His eyes flashed. Of course I want to go. Don't tell them that I'll be coming. Of course. Zach nodded. I'll instruct them to keep adding ice whenever it melts, just to keep the concept going while you're away. He could tell that Isabel must have done something to make his boss unhappy. This was just his way of getting back at her. Zach kept his thoughts to himself and left. Evelyn stood, gazing at the window pane. When Harvey walked towards her, she turned around. I have to go. I have to get back to work, she stated seriously. I do thank you, but I'm sure your manager has already approved your leave for the day, hasn't he? He tilted his head. You don't have to do any work when you head back, right? I still have to head back, she argued. Aren't you hungry? Why don't you just stay over here and eat lunch with me? He suggested. I might even take you for a show. I can eat when I get home. His face turned gloomy. Or I can just tie you up and force feed you. Either way, you're going to eat. Just depends on how you like to be fed. He was an ass! Fine. If he wanted to play this game, so be it. It wasn't like she had anything better to do anyway. Why don't we talk about the show then? She plastered a fake smile on her face. What are we going to watch? The Isabel Fox show, of course, he said lightly. She froze. Suddenly, everything started falling into place. You shouldn't interfere with my conflicts, she said hurriedly. It's really unnecessary. You're always like this, aren't you? Harvey scoffed. Even if you're nice, you shouldn't let people take advantage of you. It's why you're always being bullied. Just don't be so stubborn, and let them face the consequences of their actions. Don't be such a coward. As soon as he said that, Evelyn's blood boiled. Coward? Did he just dare to call me a coward after all that he had put me through? Evelyn thought, shaking with anger. Would Evelyn dare to berate Harvey again? Was she about to invite more troubles into her life? Episode 25. Watch the show. Evelyn raised her head, annoyed, and slammed her hands on the table. If you want me to do it, I will. Not only will I watch this show, but I'll even clap my hands once she's suffered enough. How about that? Harvey had to hold back his laughter. Sometimes the woman was all talk, without actions, but he let it slide. Instead, he leaned back and nodded. If you say so. While they were eating, Isabel wasn't holding up very well. As she stared at the set, gloom descended on her face.
You're kidding me, right, Director? I just saw those people over there pouring a pile of ice into the pool. You think I'll just walk over there in my dress and dive into the water? The director simply shook his head. There's been a slight change in the plan, but your contract still states that you have to shoot with us. He relayed the information. Don't blame me for the changes. It wasn't my decision. Then who came up with this stupid idea? She stomped her foot and crossed her arms over her chest. I want to see Mr. Cage. Everyone in the studio shared a few looks. Everyone assumed she had climbed into Mr. Cage's bed to get such a great ad opportunity, but they couldn't take her attitude. What they didn't know was that Isabel didn't sleep with him. Though the staff were sick of her, they chose not to say anything back to her. Here was an actress with no skills who thought that she could easily rule the industry. Did she think Mr. Cage will make an appearance? For her, of all people? I have no problem with you wanting to see Mr. Cage, but you'll see him after we get this take. The director snapped at her. I was told we need this shot by today. Patrick Schul, the director, was one of the top directors in the country. He was also a part of the Cage Group's production team, so he'd met plenty of big stars in his professional life. He scoffed at the woman in front of him. She wasn't even that famous, yet so arrogant. Isabel must have noticed this because she immediately backed down. After all, offending such a famous director wouldn't be wise. Instead, she stomped her feet towards her manager. When I'm done with this shoot, I'll take a picture of this place and send it to Mr. Cage. I'll make these bastards suffer. She spat. Make sure the bathrobe is ready once I'm out of the water. About that. The manager looked awkward as he rubbed the back of his neck. Nobody told us we were going into the water, so we didn't bring any bathrobes for you. Even the assistant director wasn't aware of the changes. What did you just say? She cut him off. Then what do you expect me to wear when I'm out of the water? Just calm down. Even the manager didn't know what to do. Rubbing her shoulders, he said, just bear it for a while, okay? I'll even take my coat off and give it to you. Who wants your shitty coat? Her lips curled in distaste as she shot the director a dirty look. Whoever had this idea should just go die in hell. Just wait till I tell Mr. Cage all about it. I'll do this in one take. The manager sighed, but didn't dare to say anything. This ad shoot right now was a big deal. It could even help her career. Even if she was being bullied, she couldn't say anything to Mr. Cage. Isabel mustn't get carried away. If she continued to act as the CEO's lover, then she should at least walk the talk. On the other side of the park, she took off her clothes and threw them to the side. I'm ready, she called out. She raised her eyebrows and pressed her lips. The director gave the signal, and a bucket of ice water was poured on her head. The water was bone-piercingly cold. She gritted her teeth and cursed under her as she felt her blood freeze. Despite being in pain, Isabel plastered a soft smile on her face as she twirled across the waters. She raised her hands in the air and dipped her head, trying to look like a mermaid. Cut! The director shouted. As soon as she heard the director, she swam to the shore. Her entire body was trembling as her assistants wrapped their clothes around her. She didn't even care about how dirty they were anymore. Instead, she clutched them closer to her chest and asked, Well, was it a good take? The assistant director stepped toward them. Isabel, the director said that you looked really stiff. We want you to do it again if that's all right for you. Her eyes widened in disbelief. You're joking, right? You want me to do it again? The assistant director smiled. His eyes glinted. He never really understood why he took pleasure in others' misfortune, especially in Isabel's bad luck. The woman needed to be taken down a peg or two. I have no choice. You can quit, of course, but fine. She clenched her fists. I'll do it again. This was an ad, not a movie. Why did he have to be so serious? Even if it was for the Cage Company, they had no right to torture people like this. She controlled her anger, and instead of complaining out loud, got into the pool once again. What she didn't know was that it was only the beginning of this nightmare. Inside Harvey's office, Evelyn had just finished the last bite of her food. She had eaten everything on the table, from the chicken tacos to the tortilla chips with guacamole. Even he was amazed. Is your stomach a bottomless pit? I didn't expect you to eat this much. You're the one who forced me to stay and eat, weren't you? Her lips curled. Of course, I had to eat more to be polite. Not knowing what to say, he stood up. Are you full? If you are, we can go and watch the show now. She frowned. What did you do to her anyway? Just come with me. Evelyn had no other choice but to follow. To be honest, she wanted to head back home and sleep. It was a rainy day after all, but it probably wasn't a bad thing to watch Isabel get her fair share of karma.
Once they stepped out of the office, Zach walked over to them. "Boss, I'll take you to them now." It had been a long time since Isabel had started the shoot, yet every time she'd get into the water, she shivered and made a mistake. The tension on the set was bound to erupt. While her assistants asked this photo shoot to be paused, the director simply waived the contract that she had signed. When Harvey and the others reached, the staff immediately made way for them. However, before they could greet him, he made a gesture for silence, not wanting to interrupt their photo shoot. Isabel's condition was miserable. Despite their best efforts, the makeup artist couldn't cover her pale and yellow cheeks. She trembled every time she got into the water. At this moment, she was frozen stiff and couldn't find it in herself to smile for the camera. All she could do was hug her shoulders piteously as tears ran down her cheeks. Why was this happening to her? The director was close to throwing his camera up in the air. "What the hell? This isn't a funeral!" he yelled. "What are you crying about?" Evelyn couldn't help but gape at the sight. She was at a loss for words and glanced at the man next to her. What was happening? Harvey smirked. "Let's watch." Harvey shot Zach a look. The assistant knew immediately what he was trying to say. With a gesture of his hand, someone poured another bucket of ice while Isabel was still in the pool. It made her cry even more. "I don't want to do this anymore! I can't do this anymore!" When Evelyn entered the set, she shivered. It was cold there, freezing even. Her gaze landed on the wide pool where she found Isabel swimming at the center. At the back, people continuously poured buckets of ice. How cold was she? No wonder her face looked so pale. Just staring at the buckets of ice made her want to get herself some hot cocoa. She couldn't imagine stepping into the pool, let alone swimming in it. Harvey was ruthless. Evelyn saw that his face was still unusually cold. Even when seeing Isabel break down in frustration, he didn't seem to feel anything at all. She could feel her entire body tremble in fear. It was a good thing he didn't do this to her. Otherwise, she wouldn't know what to do. But then again, Isabel had always been the type of woman who would look down upon everyone. Perhaps she truly deserved such a punishment. She was screaming in frustration for being bullied. She was finally given a taste of her own medicine. Just as Evelyn was about to turn her head away from the sight, she heard a soft voice coming from behind her. "Well, how are you feeling? When are you planning to start clapping?" She smiled awkwardly. "I don't think it's a good idea to applaud now. If she were to applaud now, Isabel would see her from a mile away. It wouldn't be a good thing to make enemies like this." Looking back at Harvey, she nudged him. "Sure, she may be mean, but you guys used to sleep together, didn't you? It wouldn't be good for you to continue this." After spending so many romantic evenings together, how could he simply throw her out like that? "Evelyn," he whispered. Instead of curling his lips and turning away, he was smiling. "Don't you remember what happened that night? From what I could piece together, you're the one who I slept with, not her." Her cheeks flushed dark red. What the hell did she have to do with this? Biting her lips, she snapped. "Who knows what you did after I left? Maybe you chased after her or something. After all, who wouldn't like her?" He stepped back, insulted. "What exactly do you think I am? Do I look like someone who chases after women?" "How would I know? All I'm saying is that she's pretty." Isabel was indeed one of the prettiest women in the industry. While she was still a newcomer, her charming face had brought her thousands of ads. Almost everyone wanted to book her. Upon hearing this, Harvey scowled. "You haven't seen the other models I've worked with. Her face is just okay." Huh? His standards were high, weren't they? If Isabel wasn't good enough, then why did he even ask her to be a model anyway? No matter how many times she tried, Evelyn just couldn't read him. Harvey must have read her thoughts because he leaned closer. "I've never touched her," he whispered. "Ever since we slept together that night, it had always been you. You're 1,000 times better than her." She froze. What did he mean? What the hell was he saying? Evelyn stepped back and snapped. "You are an ass." His lips curled upwards. Teasing this woman could be amusing. The two of them were arguing here, completely ignoring the screaming actress in the pool. With a sigh, he stepped back and turned. Might as well turn his attention to the woman who had insulted him. Isabel had already gotten out of the pool. She was trembling heavily as the long frills wrapped around her body like a glove. There wasn't even a coat to wrap her in. Her eyebrows were furrowed, and her lips were already turning blue from the cold. She looked pitiful. "You want to watch from afar?" Evelyn couldn't help but peek at the scene happening before her. "Of course not. It will end soon." With this, he walked over to Isabel with a hand in his pocket. Just as he was about to reach her, he glanced over at the woman behind him. "What are you doing? Follow me." All his assistants turned to stare at Evelyn as if expecting her to follow him. She immediately ducked her head and stepped towards him. "Why should I follow you?" He tilted his head. "Because you're the one who started this." Why did he have to make it sound like it was her fault? She was the victim here. Isabel was the one who bullied her. Harvey's lunch got knocked over, and so he's looking for payback. If anything, she was just a small scapegoat caught by two superpowers. She had nothing to do with this. But she didn't dare to say anything. With her hands trembling, Evelyn hid behind Harvey's back and she followed him. "What happened?" Harvey finally stepped towards the arguing pair as if he hadn't just been watching the show a few seconds ago. This man was scheming. Evelyn couldn't believe her ears. Wasn't he the one who had planned all of this? As soon as Isabel saw him, her eyes immediately lit up. "Mr. Cage," she stuttered, "these people are ganging up on me. They changed the set and they even got me into the cold pool. Look at me. I can't feel my hands," she said, wiping the tears from her cheeks. Even Evelyn couldn't help but sigh in pity. Despite spending an hour in the pool, she still had such a gentle face that could melt any heart. However, Harvey's face remained as cold as ever. "You must feel terrible." Thinking that he was already feeling sorry for her, Isabel continued the act. She sniffled, hugging her shoulders together. "I just wanted to give my best for this ad. I tried my best, but I never thought I'd be taken advantage of." She bowed her head. The director and the assistant director shared a look, resisting the urge to roll their eyes. It wasn't as if they were that hard with her. This woman's acting skills were really through the roof. "Looks like this shoot has worn you out." Harvey stared at her innocent and pitiful face. Stroking his chin, he tilted his head. "You can take a break." Her eyes brightened with excitement. "Really?" Harvey nodded. His smile became even more vicious by the second. "Of course. I am ending the contract between you and the Cage Group. You don't have to work with us anymore." The shock was clearly visible on Isabel's face. She couldn't have imagined in her wildest dreams that had just happened. Was this the end of her career? How did Evelyn feel after what Harvey just did? Would her stubbornness let her appreciate Harvey's efforts to avenge her humiliation? Or would Harvey's cold demeanor scare her away? Episode 26, A Dinner Invitation. Isabel froze. "Mr. Cage, you're joking, aren't you? It's really not that big of a deal. It's not like I can't do it. I can—" She trailed off, not really knowing what else to say. Her heart was racing. Was he being serious? She couldn't lose this ad. Not only was the pay very high, but she knew for a fact that all the stars in their commercials got famous afterward. If this ad wasn't for the Cage Company, she wouldn't have persisted in such strenuous conditions. "I'm not joking," Harvey said coldly. "In fact, someone has just told me how much of a bully you can be outside of work. I don't want the Cage Company to represent bad examples." Evelyn was standing behind him this whole time. As soon as she heard someone, she straightened her back with attention. Was he trying to involve her in this again? As soon as Isabel heard what it was about, her eyes flashed in rage. "Who's been slandering me?" she bit back. "Let me talk to them. Who was that person? Was he trying to screw up her entire career?" He smiled ironically, turned to look at Evelyn's hunched figure, and raised his eyebrows to signal her. "Well, she says that she wants to talk to you." Was this man serious? If looks could kill, Harvey would have already been 10 feet under. This man was clearly putting her on the spot on purpose. Was he trying to humiliate her? Isabel couldn't really see her face clearly. All she could see was that she was wearing the same clothes as her. Anger surged through her entire body. "You think you can hide behind Mr. Cage like that? You're the one who said I'm not a good person, right? So why don't you own up to it?" she snapped. "Or is it because you've been lying all this time, you coward?" What the hell? The woman was shameless. Even when Isabel had seen the woman she had bullied, she remained stubborn. Stepping out from behind Harvey, Evelyn sneered. "You haven't been a good person to begin with. Not only did your driver splash all over me with rainwater, but you even accused me of being hostile. Do you really think throwing money could fix that attitude of yours? And your bodyguard, he even pushed me down and threatened me. If you aren't a bad person, then what the hell are you?" She was willing to let her off the hook, but not anymore. Isabel stood there staring at her. For a moment, she didn't associate her with the pathetic food delivery person. Even the bodyguard was surprised.
You're the one who was delivering the food?
Yes, Evelyn rolled her eyes. By the way, the food you ruined was for Mr. Cage. As soon as she said that, the bodyguard's face turned pale. He didn't expect this turn of events at all.
It's you!
Isabel stomped her foot. She didn't recognize her as the delivery person, but as the reporter. Just when she was about to get into Harvey's bed, this woman ruined it for her. Now she was causing problems again. Isabel could feel her face burning with anger. The freezing feeling that raked over her entire body was gone. She grabbed Evelyn by the arm.
Do you have something against me, huh? You did it on purpose, didn't you, you bitch? What's wrong with you?
Her long nails dug deeper into Evelyn's arm, and she struggled to get free. Let go of me. I'm not doing anything against you.
You're just jealous. That's why you came to screw me over. Tell the truth. Why are you doing this? Are you trying to frame me?
She twisted her arm even harder, and Evelyn couldn't break away. Let go of me. Yet no matter how many times she tried to fight against her, she couldn't. Isabel was freaking out. Who would have thought that she'd act like this? Harvey stared at her, unimpressed. He didn't expect this woman to be a complete mess. But before he could ask someone to pull her away, the actress fell into the pool. They were standing by the ledge, so when Isabel fell, Evelyn lost her balance and got pulled down too. Crap. This wasn't happening. This wasn't happening. She closed her eyes, scared to look. A moment had passed, but she wasn't underwater yet. What just happened? I asked you to come forward because I wanted you to vent your anger, not to have you get into more trouble. A strong and powerful arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her back up. She leaned against a warm figure, and the grip on her waist only tightened more. When she opened her eyes, she saw Isabel falling into the pool, splashing water everywhere. Her wet hair lay limp on her shoulders as she was staring them down. Evelyn turned around to see Harvey. This was who had saved her. Twice now. Isabel came out of the water. Her hair stuck to her face, which didn't do her any favors, making her look even skinnier. She was shivering from the cold. It didn't help that the first thing she saw was Harvey holding that stupid girl in his arms. Not only did he save that bitch, but he let her fall. Why did it have to be like this? Only then did Harvey look at her. The Cage Group doesn't want an ugly model to represent them. He glanced at the dumbfounded director. We're finishing the shooting today. Find another model. What? Isabel could feel her entire world shatter. Her manager and assistant quickly draped their coats over her, but she couldn't find it in her to move. Even the director couldn't bear to watch. But Mr. Cage, the commercials must be filmed by the end of the week. If we change models at the last minute. Harvey's hand lingered on Evelyn's soft waist. Her skin glistened in the sunlight as her beautiful black hair glimmered over it. Was she a nymph? He suddenly had an idea. As he still hadn't let go of her, he lifted her up to face the director. You want a model? Pick her. What? Was Harvey insane? She froze, unable to say another word. All she could think about was the word model. Model? He wanted her to model for him? Before she could even react, he had already dragged her towards this car. Even the director wasn't offered the chance to speak. Only when they were in the car did she come back to her senses. Are you crazy? She wailed. You're asking me to be the model? What's wrong? He said impatiently. I'll pay you for it, and it's good money. I promise you, I'm short. Don't you see? She shook her head in denial. You shouldn't make these decisions on a whim like that. How am I going to be a model? Did he do this to annoy Isabel? Even then, this was going too far. It's for the nymph series I'm doing, he said casually. For shorter and softer looking models. I wanted to focus on the emotions, not the regality of the brand. Even then, I've never been in a commercial shoot before. I don't even know what to do in front of a camera, she protested. How am I going to make it work? Oh, she was screwed now. When did they change roles? Why was she the one persuading him now? It doesn't matter if you're professional or not, Harvey insisted. Besides, you'll be working with people who know what they're doing. They will help you. You're only saying that because you want to piss off Isabel. Evelyn wasn't convinced as she crossed her arms. Don't bother. His face darkened. My actions have nothing to do with her. Just follow my orders. She didn't know what to say. Why would this man hire someone inexperienced to replace a professional model? Did he want to destroy his brand in one day? She loved the collection so much. All those exquisite designs and gorgeous fabrics. She wanted to do it justice. When they went back to the CEO's office, they sat on either side of the sofa. Isabel has shown us her true colors.
So the commercials we shot with her shouldn't be used, and I don't have time to look for models now.
He sighed.
Look, you're the one who caused this in the first place, so take the responsibility for me.
But I really can't.
You just haven't tried.
He sat back on the couch.
If I remember correctly, you used to study fashion design back in college, didn't you? I'm sure you've worked with models before.
She froze. He was right. Her major back in college was fashion design. Seeing that she finally gave in, he smiled.
Who's your favorite designer?
Favorite designer? She gulped. Harvey noticed that her eyes lit up and continued, like a hunter setting a trap.
How about this? After shooting the commercial, I'll pay you and introduce you to your favorite fashion designer. I'll even arrange for you to have dinner together. Ask them anything you want.
Evelyn didn't even hesitate and slammed her hands against the table. I'll do it. If she was going to meet her favorite designer, she'd do anything. After all, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
All right, I'll ask La Grenouille to give you 3 days off.
He crossed his arms.
There'll be a car to pick you up at 8 a.m. tomorrow, okay?
She slowly stood up. But don't get your hopes up, okay? I don't have much experience in these. I'll probably mess up and...
As long as you show up, I'll bear the consequences.
He interrupted, waving her off. With this, she straightened up and left. The anxiety about modeling for the Cage brand faded to the back of her mind. As long as he was willing to bear the consequences of his decision, what did she have to worry about? As soon as she left, Harvey called his assistant in.
Mr. Cage,
Zach greeted him as soon as he walked in.
What can I do for you? Give me all the current paperwork. I want to finish them all before I get off work today. I won't be here for the next 3 days.
Harvey looked up.
Prepare my private jet. We'll be heading to the private island in the Pacific. We'll shoot there instead.
Of course, I'll arrange it right away. Zach couldn't help but admire Evelyn. Who would have thought that such a woman could make the CEO care so much? What kind of magic did she have? In the car, Evelyn sneezed. She gazed up at the sky and frowned. The skies turned gloomy again. Evelyn's phone rang and she quickly picked it up. Hello?
Where are you right now? Do you need me to pick you up?
Mark's voice sounded anxious.
It'll be dark soon. I'll come get you.
I'm fine. I'll be home soon. Besides, it might start raining again. I wouldn't want you to drive in this weather, she quickly responded.
But I can't let you come alone, he insisted. Don't worry, okay? Just wait for me.
But before she could say anything, he already hung up the phone. She shook her head and shut her eyes in defeat. Mark was very worried about her. She felt like she was better when she lived alone. Usually on rainy nights like this, she'd spend the evening cuddled up in her bed like a shivering dog. The death of her parents had a big impact. However, with the help of her therapist, she was well into her recovery journey. Today, she wasn't afraid as she would have been before. Time does cure the deepest pain. Evelyn had no other choice but to believe in that. I'm older than him, yet he's the one who's taking care of me, she muttered to herself. Her phone rang again. Thinking that it was Mark, she grabbed her phone and glanced at the screen. It was an unfamiliar number. Who was this? Curious, she answered it.
Evelyn,
said a gentle voice. Her heart almost jumped right out of her chest. Timothy?
Yeah, I'm currently at La Grenouille. I heard that you work here, but when I asked around, the manager said you were out delivering food.
There was a pause.
I was just worried about you, that's all.
I've already finished my work, actually. I'm heading back home. She rubbed the back of her neck, looking at the evening sky. Or was Timothy looking for her? She shook her head.
Oh, you're going home already.
Disappointed filled his voice.
I was hoping we could have some dinner tonight.
Dinner? She stopped. She was over him, but she still knew him very well. Even when she didn't see Timothy, she could tell what he was feeling deep inside. For example, he sounded very disappointed over the phone. She tapped the driver on the shoulder. No, wait. I think I left something back at La Grenouille anyway, Evelyn said. I'm heading back.
Really? I'll wait then.
The disappointment in Timothy's tone suddenly disappeared. As soon as she hung up the phone, she asked the driver to turn around. A strange feeling stirred in her stomach as she struggled to keep her cool. Even after so long, her heart still hurt. A part of her wanted to see Timothy. After all, they had been friends before she fell in love with him. The man was always worried about her. She was probably just a knot he needed to untangle. The best she could do was untangle the knot herself. After all the trouble she caused him, she knew he didn't deserve to feel guilty and awkward over her hurt feelings. They didn't know any better back then. Yes, this was simply something she needed to do to resolve old misunderstandings. As Evelyn got out of the car, she could feel the cold wind slap her in the face and hear the clouds rumbling overhead. All she wanted was to say a few words and leave. With a sigh, she glanced at the restaurant. Will it be so easy? Will she be able to leave as she planned? Or is Evelyn's life about to take a turn she never expected? 1,000 thoughts raced through her mind. Am I going back just to get my stuff? Or is the prospect of having dinner with Timothy the real reason? Have I been lying to myself this entire time?
Episode 27, An Impulsive Call. Timothy was a very handsome man. Everything around him seemed to fade as he sat in his chair. Even the way he moved looked so regal, like a prince. He was still the same man he had been years ago. Evelyn looked around and saw that he wasn't alone. There was a woman sitting opposite of him. The woman looked fresh and beautiful. Her natural wavy hair fell to her back, contrasting with the white dress she was wearing. The lace clung to her bodice as she held up her hand, talking to Timothy. The man's lips curled up into a smile. While it was small, it was still blinding. Evelyn froze. She wasn't expecting that he'd bring another person to their dinner. It was just like when they were celebrating Christmas that one time. Evelyn knit a scarf for him and went off to find him. Timothy promised to meet her, only to appear with another girl on his arm. Her heart pounded just thinking about it. She came back to her senses and smiled bitterly. This scene was triggering. Is that Evelyn? The woman glanced her way, nudging Timothy. He glanced up. The sky blue dress highlighted Evelyn's tan skin, making her look even thinner than she already was. It fit her waist so well, showing her curvy figure and defined collarbones. Her hair was a little wet from the rain that had just started, but it didn't overpower her sparkly eyes and red lips. There were a few men who turned to look at her, admiring the beauty. Timothy pursed his lips and came up to her. Was it raining that hard? Your hair is drenched, he said as he placed his suit around her shoulders. The scent of fresh lemongrass filled her nose, and she blinked. I'm fine, really. It just started to drizzle. I didn't get too wet. While the scene was familiar to her, she was a completely different person now. The pain in her heart had already subsided to a dull thump. Her love for Timothy was in the past. When Mike saw her, he grabbed her a towel. Evelyn, her manager lectured, it must have been hard on you today. How about this? You don't need to pay your friend's bill today. Just enjoy dinner with him. Of course. Thank you, Mike. Evelyn glanced at Timothy. She wanted to say that she was here to grab her stuff. After all, it seemed like he had nothing to talk about. But before she could say another word, he waved his hand. You must be hungry. Why don't you join us for dinner? He led her towards the table. You know Megan, don't you? Timothy pulled her to the table before she could say anything. He even pulled out a chair for her to sit down. Okay. She blushed in embarrassment. Megan stared at both of them for a long moment. While she was politely smiling at the woman, she was anything but happy to see her sitting next to him. She even thought Evelyn should have disappeared from his life after all these years. What the hell was this shameless woman doing here now? Hadn't he rejected her already? She smiled through the bitterness. Yes, it's been a while, Evelyn. Yes, she nodded. It has. Megan was the woman she didn't want to be compared to. While Evelyn was struggling to win over Timothy, it was Megan who stood by his side. Back then, they went abroad together. Now they were both here, still together. It seemed like they must have already made things official. While she was thinking of this, she suddenly felt a touch. He adjusted his jacket on her shoulders. She panicked and shrugged it off. Timothy, thank you for the coat. It's just, I'm not cold anymore. The last thing she needed was to be misunderstood in front of his actual girlfriend. After all, Megan knew all about their past relationship. She knew just how madly in love Evelyn was with him. This dinner was already quite awkward. Megan greeted her with a smile, but Evelyn could tell that the woman hated her with all her might. Did Megan still think she's the same woman she used to be? Her smile turned bitter. Maybe she shouldn't have come. The best option now was to cut off all contact with Timothy. When the coat landed on his lap, Timothy frowned. A part of him wanted to say something, but he simply put the coat aside. Actually, Timothy, Aunt Catherine came by yesterday and asked me to go with her and help pick out a few pieces of art for her home. Megan interrupted, her eyes sparkling. I don't know much about collectibles, and you've always been better at picking rare pieces. Why don't we go together? My mom wants to buy some stuff. He furrowed his eyebrows. She should have told me herself. She thinks you'll be busy. I'm sure she'll be ecstatic if you join us. Oh, speaking of, do you still remember our friend Pierre from France? His wife just had a baby girl. He invited us to go visit them and meet the family. Timothy nodded thoughtfully. I didn't know he was married. You don't remember? He actually met Jenny at a party. They talked about their lives abroad.
Evelyn just sat there, barely listening. She didn't know what they were talking about, or who they were referring to. They were talking so much, she couldn't even interject to tell them that she was heading out. She looked away, resisting the urge to sigh. They belonged to two different worlds, and now this meeting has proved it again. It reminded her that she was the only one who had feelings for him. Suddenly, his phone rang, interrupting the conversation. "I have to answer this," Timothy said, flashing a smile. "Evelyn, you should eat something, okay?" She came back to her senses. Okay." Once Timothy left the table, the atmosphere became even more tense. This was probably the right time for Evelyn to leave. She didn't need to tell Timothy, and she was sure that Megan would be happy if she suddenly left. Yes, it was a perfect opportunity. But when she was about to say something, Megan slammed her fork on the table and leaned back. The smile on her face was gone. "It's been so many years since we last saw each other," she snapped. "But you're just as shameless. Didn't I make it clear years ago that Timothy couldn't possibly like someone like you? How dare you show up here?" Evelyn froze. She still remembered the time she had chased Timothy to the airport, only to be stopped by this woman. "Timothy already told you he'd never be with you, yet you're still following him around. He only wants to be with me. Our family has already discussed our going abroad to study and our future. Our marriage has already been decided." Megan snapped again and grabbed Evelyn by the shoulders. "Do you know why Timothy didn't tell you he was leaving? Because he was worried you'd do something like this and humiliate him." The memories came back in full force, and Evelyn felt like someone punched her in the stomach. "This is a misunderstanding," she said calmly. "Timothy is just a friend now. A friend? What changed?" Megan scoffed. Evelyn didn't bother to explain and stood up. "If that woman didn't want her here, so be it. I'll go if you really don't want me here, and I won't see him again." Megan raised her eyebrows charmingly. "Is that so? You should keep your word then. Just a few days ago, we were discussing our engagement, and I don't want some woman chasing Timothy like a ghost." Evelyn winced. Megan's words were a bit harsh, but she didn't really have the energy to refute her. If she hadn't been after Timothy in the past, Megan wouldn't feel the need to be so guarded around her. Maybe then they would have been better friends. Besides, even Timothy was wary of her back then. Who hasn't, at a certain time in their life, lost their sense of self and dignity and was screwed over by love? But everyone grows up sooner or later. No matter how many times they've trampled over their dignity, they'd soon pick themselves up and move on. "Perhaps what you said was what I needed to hear to move on a couple of years ago," she slowly said. "But I don't need it now. Besides, there's someone I like, and I wish you and Timothy nothing but happiness. If that's what you want, I won't disturb him anymore." Evelyn turned around, only to see Timothy standing in front of her. He stood there with his mouth open, looking like he was at a loss for words. How much did he hear? She wanted to say something, anything, but she didn't feel the need anymore. Maybe this was a good ending for all three of them. She wasn't the same as she had been a few years ago. Not only did she calm down a lot, but she also learned to let go and move on. Reality had already set in, and she was more than ready to accept it. Maybe a part of her was a little too greedy. She thought that even if they couldn't be lovers in this lifetime, perhaps they could be friends. But it seemed like she was just too hopeful. It was best to end it this way. "I'm leaving. Goodbye," she said politely. Evelyn walked past him and went straight into the elevator. She turned around to press the button and caught a look on his face. He was hard to read. Maybe he was about to say something, but before he did, the elevator doors closed. A few years ago, she would have given anything just to be with him. No matter how badly she hurt, she'd always look up at him with a smile. Because he was Timothy, and she loved him. This was the first time she didn't seem to care, and the need to go after him was gone. She couldn't help but smile at the thought. Back then, she thought the love she had for him wouldn't go away that easily. And it didn't. She'd loved him for 7 or 8 years. Of course, it was scary to think about it all turning into dust. But now, her heart no longer felt like it was being torn apart. She was as calm and composed as she could be, as if her heart was already free of the pain. The possibility of never seeing him again didn't feel like a devastating tragedy anymore. The memories were going to be just a thing of the past. The best thing she could do was keep these great memories safe in her heart and move on. From now on, they were strangers. The elevator reached the first floor and Evelyn stepped out into the lobby. But before she could even look for a taxi, she heard a few footsteps behind her. "Evelyn!" It was Timothy's voice. Before she could respond, he grabbed her wrist. "Why don't I drive you back?" She frowned, then heard Megan's voice behind her. "Timothy! Timothy, wait for me!" Evelyn broke free from his grip. took a step back, and drew a deep breath. No need. She plastered a smile on her face. Why don't you and Megan go? And I'll get a taxi. Megan stared at the gentle and shy woman and couldn't help but scowl. Wanting to look good in front of Timothy, she stepped forward. The rain's really strong, she reasoned. Why don't you let Timothy take you home? After all, your boyfriend will be worried if you go home alone. Boyfriend? Evelyn stared at her in disbelief. She told Megan that she liked someone, not that she had a boyfriend. As soon as Timothy heard that, he scowled. When did she say she has a boyfriend? Megan, just head back on your own. I'll drive her home. She told me she has a boyfriend. Megan lowered her head. And the rain is so heavy. I'm just worried about her, you know? What the hell were they talking about? Evelyn felt like slamming her head against one of the pillars. Couldn't this day just end peacefully? Ugh, fine. If they wanted a boyfriend, then she'd give them a boyfriend. Maybe then they wouldn't bother her anymore. You really don't need to worry about me. Evelyn tilted her head as she got her phone out of her pocket. She glanced at the pair and turned around. I'll just call my boyfriend to pick me up. Timothy blinked. You really do have a boyfriend? I do. Harvey had just finished his dinner and was just about to take a bath when his phone rang. He pursed his lips and glanced at the caller ID. He hated it when people called him after work hours. This was his time to rest and relax. Who is it this time? He muttered to himself and grabbed the phone. But as soon as he saw who was calling, he immediately answered. Evelyn actually called him. The corners of his lips twitched up into a smile. Why are you calling me at this time? Unless, of course, you want to meet up this late at night. As soon as she heard his voice, she froze. Evelyn really had gone crazy. Of all the people she could have called on impulse, it had to be Harvey. She didn't even realize she called him. She glanced at her screen just to make sure. What the hell was she going to say? If she backed down now... What's wrong? He frowned. You called me to be quiet? Pausing just for a minute, she finally spoke. I'm at La Grenouille and it's raining. I was wondering if you could pick me up. How the tables have turned. Evelyn felt so embarrassed that she could feel her cheeks blush. Her hands shook as she felt her bottom lip start to tremble. Harvey wouldn't pick her up at this hour. She should have called anyone other than this asshole. But to be honest, the only man she knew other than Timothy was Mark. No one else. Great. Not only would she be mocked by Megan, but the bastard's going to laugh at her too. It's heavy rain, and you want me to come all this way to pick you up? He said reluctantly. There it was. Evelyn took a deep breath. Is that so? You're working? No problem. I know how busy you are. I'll figure it out myself, okay? She said slowly. Don't worry about me. See you later. Evelyn knew embarrassment awaited her. What excuse would she make to Timothy and Megan for her boyfriend not turning up? But most importantly, did she just give Harvey another reason to irritate and tease her to death? Episode 28. I've never been in love with you. Evelyn was just about to hang up the phone when he said, Wait for me. I'll be there in a few minutes. Before she could even say anything, Harvey hung up. Timothy clenched his fists as he stepped over towards her. He just said that he's busy with work. Is that the boyfriend you've been talking about? He was obviously disappointed. I'll just drive you. There's really no need. She waved him over. He insisted on coming over. Megan, who was a little annoyed in the beginning, finally smiled. Really? Your boyfriend must be so considerate if he's picking you up, she complimented. That's so sweet. Sweet? Was that the right way to describe him? Unable to say anything, she nodded. Why don't you guys head out first? I'll wait for him here. She couldn't help but feel a little strange. Did Harvey really agree to help her? Megan pulled on the man's arm. We should go back. Her boyfriend's coming to pick her up anyway. Timothy still wasn't moving. Instead, he stared at Evelyn. It's raining so heavily. I can't let you wait here alone like this. How about I stay with you for a while? I'll leave when he gets here. There's no need. You can go. I'll wait here. I can't do that, he said firmly. Megan's face became less friendly when he said that. The weather was terrible. Why did they have to stay here to wait with this woman? She was very reluctant, but resisted the urge to roll her eyes and smiled. Let us wait with you. I'd love to meet your boyfriend, she said. Okay, fine. Not wanting to argue anymore, she gave in. Ugh, God, what was wrong with her? The rain still hasn't stopped. Harvey looked like he had just won the lottery. He changed into his black suit and wine red shirt, glancing in the mirror. Had she gotten into trouble? For her to call him like this, did this mean that she had feelings for him? He puffed up his chest. If he helped her out now, she'd be indebted to him, and he was going to claim that debt. Harvey got into the car and sped all the way to La Grenouille. The house he lived in was actually very far from the city, but because he was speeding, he arrived in about half an hour. He got out of the car with an umbrella in his hand. He saw Evelyn right away. She was standing by the entrance. He paid no attention to the people next to her. He raised his eyebrows and tilted his head. "Why are you looking at me like that? Do you want to walk over to the car, or should I come and get you?" he asked with a smirk. An endless rain pounded over them as the skies rumbled and darkened. But when Harvey parked a few feet away from her, she felt as if she had just witnessed a bright light. Her hands trembled. He wore a wine-colored shirt and a tailored black suit. His cold eyes glinted under the rain. Even in this stormy weather, he looked lean and sexy, like a Hollywood actor. Her heart skipped a beat. Evelyn couldn't help but look away, blushing in embarrassment. What nonsense was he talking about? Before he could say another word, she ducked her head and took a step forward. The last thing she needed was for him to walk towards her. Who knew what he would say to them? Just as she was about to take another step forward, Timothy blurted out, "Evelyn!" A part of him just couldn't bear seeing her walk away, right into another man's arms. His chest felt tight. Evelyn turned back at him, and he stopped. In a split second, she felt like everything disappeared around them, like they were the only two people on the planet. Looking at his face, she couldn't help but think back to the time she admitted her feelings to him. He was wearing a clean shirt and ripped jeans. He was the first man she ever fell in love with. He made her laugh, and also made her cry, but she never regretted loving him. But now, the feelings she had for him then were gone. "Timothy, that's my boyfriend." Evelyn finally smiled. "I should head out. The rain's still so bad. You guys should go too." Without another word, she turned around and ran towards Harvey. What she didn't expect was to slip on the pavement and fall right into his arms. "Ah!" He immediately wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her closer to his chest. "I didn't expect you to be so forward," he teased. She ducked her head. "I just slipped, that's all." While the rain was cold, his body felt warm against hers. A part of her didn't want to separate from his arms. She's grown way too acquainted with them. Wrapping his arms around her shoulders, he slowly raised his head. His piercing cold eyes swept across Timothy and the woman next to him. While he didn't know who this man was, he knew what he was to her. They must have had a relationship. His grip on her tightened as they got into his car. With one last look at the couple, he got into the driver's seat and drove off. Timothy couldn't even move as he watched the car drive away. He sighed as his fingernails dug into his palms. Megan's jaw dropped. The boyfriend she's talking about was Harvey Cage? She didn't need to look closer to know who that man was. With his dark eyes and well-defined features, that was definitely Harvey Cage, one of the richest bachelors in the city. She'd seen him a couple of times at banquets and events. She shivered. Megan could never imagine that Evelyn's boyfriend would be him, of all people. The same woman who followed Timothy like a fly managed to bag one of the richest men in the country. How was this even possible? Were they pranking her or something? Timothy twisted his lips as he turned away. He was in pain. He looked at the pavement and then reluctantly said, "Let's go home." "Sure." Recovering from her shock, she followed right after him. When they got into the car, she couldn't help but notice the look on his face. Evelyn is very lucky, isn't she, to get a boyfriend like Harvey Cage? He treats her well, too, she mused. I've heard rumors of his habits when it comes to women, how he dumps them once he's slept with them. At first I had my doubts, but for him to come and pick her up, looks like she's pretty special to him. That's what she said out loud, but in her mind she was cursing Evelyn out. How could a trash like Evelyn get someone as handsome and as rich as Harvey Cage? The thought itself was impossible. She couldn't believe it. Timothy, on the other hand, didn't say a word as he tightly gripped the steering wheel. His face was oddly blank, not really caring about whatever was running through Megan's mind. She had no other choice but to keep her mouth shut while her heart pounded. Ever since Timothy came back, Megan couldn't help but feel something was off with him. No, it wasn't even the day he returned. It was the day he went to see Evelyn. She felt her heart thumping. Was it that bitch again? But didn't Timothy reject her back then? And if so, why was he being strange? A part of her wanted to say something, but instead she changed the topic. She didn't want to make him more upset than he already was. Let's not think about her anymore, she said slowly. We never finished our conversation about our engagement. I was wondering if...
I won't marry you, Megan,
he said gently. What? Her face instantly turned pale. What do you mean you won't marry me? She stuttered out, almost dropping her phone. We've been together for years now. How?
You know that I've never been in love with you.
He finally parked his car on the roadside. He still wasn't looking at her.
What we were just childhood friends, nothing more.
Who are you in love with then? Evelyn? A wave of anxiety flushed over her, and she struggled to breathe. Her voice became even sharper. Well? He frowned.
Don't drag her into this. This is between you and me.
You and me, she repeated. Memories flashed in the back of her head as she grabbed him by the arm. Tears streamed down her face. You know that I love you, right? I've never even dated anyone else. It's always been you. What will be the difference between me and Evelyn if you dump me like you did her? I've been by your side for years. Even if you don't love me now, I'm sure it can change with time. And
Megan.
Timothy finally reached out for her hand and stared her right in the eyes. His heart was hurting, but not for her, for the girl who had cried for him years ago.
That's the point. I just can't shake Evelyn off my mind,
he finally said.
I tried because I knew I didn't deserve her, that I'm not worthy of her.
She stared at him in shock. No, you're lying. Why would he say something like this? What did he mean by not being worthy of Evelyn? She was just another basic bitch. She thought she had finally won the competition against that woman. But she had been wrong all along? You're the one who rejected her, aren't you? And now you're saying? Timothy finally removed her hand from his arm.
I rejected Evelyn, yes,
he said finally.
But that doesn't mean that I don't love her.
Those words pushed her off the cliff. Timothy's words made her skin crawl. What on earth was he talking about? While the atmosphere in Timothy's car was filled with rage and sadness, Harvey's car was filled with an impenetrable silence. Evelyn had been staring out the window this entire time. Her fingers drummed against the window as she took a deep but shaky breath. Harvey couldn't help but glance at her.
Why are you looking like that? Are you crying?
Stunned, she looked up in a daze. Huh? What are you talking about? I'm not crying.
Is it because of your ex? Is he the reason you called me?
As the image flashed in his mind, Harvey scoffed.
I don't even know why I'm getting involved with your business. My time shouldn't be wasted like this.
Evelyn blushed. You misunderstood. He was never my boyfriend. They're a couple, and they insisted on taking me home, but I didn't want to third wheel them. That's why I called you. She ducked her head as her voice lowered into a whisper. I didn't actually think you'd come.
Didn't think that I'd come.
As soon as he heard this, he parked the car by the roadside to stare at her.
Are you saying that I shouldn't have?
What did this woman mean? That he's some lapdog or something? Evelyn saw the look on his face and rushed to explain. No, I didn't mean it like that. I do appreciate it. It's just that I didn't expect you to come in this kind of weather. After all, what was she to him? To Harvey, she wasn't worth a dime. She didn't expect him to drive in such heavy rain to get her. Why did he choose to help her? He pursed his lips, looking like he'd just read her mind.
I came for my reward.
Evelyn furrowed her eyebrows. Reward? She didn't promise him anything, did she? Harvey smirked as he unfastened his seatbelt. Before she knew it, he leaned forward and put his hand on her back. Evelyn's back pressed against the seat as she stared at him, her eyes widening. What are you doing?
I'm taking my reward, of course.
He leaned forward and kissed her on the lips. She wanted to push and resist, but her hands were held down to her sides. The rain splattered across the windshield, but the two didn't seem to care. The darkness shrouded over them as he deepened the kiss, pulling her closer into his arms. His hands stroked her back, going up to her chest. She could barely move, consumed by the kiss. She was in a daze from too many thoughts running through her head. After a long minute, he finally retreated and adjusted his messed-up shirt. He licked his lips.
I'll take a down payment,
he said.
As for the rest, I'll collect another day.
Evelyn straightened her clothes. What down payment? She stuttered. I didn't say I'll pay you.
If you won't pay me, I can simply ask for the rest right now.
He shrugged. You wouldn't.
I'm actually being very rational, he said slowly. There are several surveillance cameras recording our every move. If we stay here, we might be on the front page tomorrow. You used to be so obsessed with getting the front page headlines. Why don't I help you get it?
Evelyn turned pale. She poked her head out of the window. You're lying. There can't be any cameras around here. If the photos leak, she gulped. Do you know how much trouble we'll be in? Harvey relaxed in his seat.
Keep looking out the window and give them a better view.
Fuck! Yelping, she plopped back onto her seat.
She covered her face. What are you waiting for then? Just hurry up and drive. She didn't need to be in the news for something so promiscuous.
Harvey raised his eyebrows. But you still haven't promised me.
Are you crazy? If you continue, we'll both be in the headlines, not just me.
You think they'll put me in the headlines? Me? You should worry about yourself, he said casually. I can already imagine the headlines. A couple busted for having sex in public.
Okay, fine, I promise. Just hurry up and drive. Evelyn slammed her hands onto the car door, feeling like her body was being pierced by needles. Her face was getting more and more red. The last thing she needed was to prolong the suffering. Did he choose the spot intentionally to force me to accede to his demands? What if the cameras did capture them together? Did she make a mistake by poking her head out? Her life would be ruined if any such picture found its way to the media.
Episode 29, Taken to His Private Island. Once Harvey got the answer he wanted, he pressed his foot on the gas. In reality, there weren't any surveillance cameras there. How stupid would he have to be to kiss her in front of them? While he may be one of the most popular men in the area, it would still be a pain to deal with those videos. Evelyn was too naive. The rain gradually stopped, and Harvey finally drove her home. He didn't even mention Timothy or Megan anymore, to her relief. She stared out of the window as her house showed up in the view. She was about to get out of the car when something occurred to her. "Hey, about that bathrobe in your office," she murmured. "You should throw that away." "Huh?" He blinked. "Why?" There was a moment of silence as she flushed in embarrassment. It took her a couple of seconds till she was able to say, "I wore that bathrobe. My underwear was wet, so I didn't have a choice. Just throw it away." She ducked her head and ran away, leaving a very confused man alone in his car. He watched her small figure rush to the entrance. He thought of something. She was naked when she was wrapped in his bathrobe. What did she mean? Was she saying this on purpose? Was this woman trying to seduce him? If he knew about this sooner, he would have brought her back to his house and tied her to his bedpost. "Calm down," he muttered to himself and took a deep breath. His conscience finally cleared as he drove back home. The rain started again, and his thoughts weren't on the slippery roads, but rather with the body under his bathrobe. If he had had a woman by his side, just the thought of it was enough to make him sick. But with Evelyn, it was different. It seemed like no matter what he did, Evelyn was still haunting every corner of his mind. Standing in his bedroom, he decided to solve this issue himself for the first time in his life. While he was sexually frustrated, Evelyn wasn't the slightest bit bothered. In fact, she felt relieved. She ran into Mark at the door. He was wearing his leather jacket and was just about to leave. "Sis, you're back." She nodded slowly. "Yeah, I got off work early today because of the rain." "Ah, you..." He looked at what she was wearing and cut himself off. She noticed and explained. "My clothes were soaked from the rain, so I had to borrow a dress from my colleague. The weather was pretty horrible today." She suddenly remembered about her clothes. It's all still in Harvey's office, even her underwear. At the thought, her cheeks flushed bright red. "It's so cold outside. Come in. I'm glad you're back. I was just about to go pick you up." Mark made her some hot tea. She took a sip from the cup and started cooking dinner. As soon as she looked away, the smile on his face disappeared. A few minutes later, his phone rang. He quickly picked up and walked into his room. "What is it?" he snarled. "Boss," said a breathless voice, "those idiots let the bastard run off again." "Then what the hell are you calling me for?" he snapped. "Keep searching for him." "We'll find him, boss. Don't worry."
"Mark, what are you doing? Come eat," Evelyn called from the kitchen. The scowl on his face dropped as he hung up. He took a deep breath and stepped out. She furrowed her eyebrows when she saw his disheveled hair. "What were you doing in there?" "Nothing." He mustered up a smile. "Why don't we eat?" Mark sat down and grabbed the plate on the table. The food looked delicious, yet his thoughts were somewhere else. He tightened the grip on his fork. Evelyn always hoped that he'd become an excellent man, and for her, he was already very close to getting there. Not only was he a great brother, but he was also successful in school, including in sports. Once he graduated, he'd find a good job and become a very successful man.
That had always been her dream for him, ever since their parents died. But things weren't what they seemed. He wasn't just the brother she was proud of. Instead, he was the leader of a criminal gang. Not long ago, in order to climb up the ranks, he needed to complete dangerous challenges. It was the only way to gain the respect of older gang members. Now, he finally had a little bit more power to move around. Evelyn once mentioned that there was this customer who was bothering her. Worried about her, he scouted the area and found that there was a rapist lurking about. He didn't tell her about it, afraid that she'd be worried about him and scared for her life. But the truth was that the world they lived in was a dangerous place. New York seemed very glamorous to outsiders, but was in fact infested with crime, especially after dark. He couldn't help but feel worried about his sister. Now all he wanted was to get rid of all those bastards on the street, to protect her. Ah, so salty! Mark looked up, surprised. What's wrong? The food is too salty. Don't eat it. She made a face. I'll throw it away. Really? He raised his eyebrows, picked up a few vegetables, and stuffed them in his mouth. Evelyn didn't even have the chance to stop him. It's pretty good, I think. Hey, she stared at him helplessly. I just said the food was salty, didn't I? Don't eat it. It's not that bad. I can just eat more rice. He shrugged and smiled charmingly. It doesn't matter if your cooking is good or not. It's my job as your brother to eat it all. You really know how to talk, huh? She burst into laughter. But a feeling of guilt stirred in her stomach. Perhaps she had been so preoccupied with Harvey that she wasn't paying enough attention to cooking. I'll be playing in a basketball tournament, he said when they were cleaning up the table. So I wouldn't be home as much. I'll stay on campus, and I'll call you from time to time. Sure. Evelyn was secretly relieved. She promised to shoot with Harvey for a commercial tomorrow, and knowing him, she didn't know what to expect. Later at night, she tossed and turned in her bed for an hour before falling asleep. Meanwhile, Mark was sitting on his bed, staring out the window. He had important things to take care of. The next morning, Evelyn was more than ready to face the day. She got into the car Harvey had sent for her and looked out the window. At some point, she noticed that they were arriving at an airport. Aren't we supposed to head to the Cage building? Boss told me to drive you to the airport, miss. Evelyn was surprised and thought it was a mistake, but then was led to a private jet. She didn't understand what was going on until she saw Harvey. Hey, she yelled. What the hell was that? I wanted to go to the beach this summer. He raised his eyebrows. So I decided to move the shoot there. She looked around. Green leaves swayed with the wind as if coming up to say hello. The blue water rolled in waves, splashing across the sandy shoreline. There, the sun rose in the distance, its yellow-orange rays fitting the overall picture. Before she could understand what was happening, Harvey took her backpack from her and slipped his hand in his pocket. We'll be staying here for the next 3 days. And where exactly is there? What the hell's going on? Not only was Evelyn taken to the airport for no apparent reason, but she was also about to fly somewhere. They arrived at God knows what island with the man she hated with all her heart. It's my private island, Harvey said shortly. And why did you bring me here? What do you mean, 3 days? She pursed her lips. I want to go back to New York. He shrugged. Even if she wanted to leave, she couldn't. The plane has already taken off, and this entire island belongs to me. Even if you scream for help, it's just the two of us here, he retorted with a smile. Her heart almost skipped a beat. What did you just say? Was this some sort of joke? He was admiring her features. Even when she was annoyed, she still looked adorable. She could have been a great actress if she wasn't so stubborn. I don't know a person who could make a face like this, he teased. She puffed her cheeks in frustration. What the hell are you trying to do? Didn't you promise me this? Harvey waved his hand around the island. This is where we'll be filming the commercial. I just brought you here early. Now, if you don't mind, I'm heading to the villa. You can stay here if you want, but I have to warn you, you might come across a few lizards if you aren't careful. What did you just say? Feeling the hairs raise on her back, Evelyn quickly caught up with him. She mouthed curses behind his back, rolling her eyes every other second. This man was insane. They were shrouded by trees all around as they walked deeper and deeper into the island. About 10 minutes later, she could finally make out a perched roof not far away. They got closer, and she gaped at the sight. The blue and white colors truly popped from the greeneries. While it appeared big with its tall pillars and exquisite architecture, there was something comforting about the glass windows and clean walls. Somehow, it almost felt like home. She couldn't help but gasp. It was insane, but he was also rich. Once they entered, he said, There's a swimsuit at the end of the corridor if you need one. Swimsuit? She pursed her lips. I won't wear one.
How are you going to walk down the beach if not in a swimsuit? In a jacket? He scoffed, rolling his eyes. It's not like I haven't seen you naked before. Besides, no matter how great the bikini is, it wouldn't make your figure any better.
Her cheeks flushed. You're an ass. Harvey shrugged and changed his clothes, getting ready for surfing. Evelyn, on the other hand, stomped into the closet, unaware of the gaze boring down her back. There were countless swimsuits in the closet. While she was infinitely frustrated with the man who brought her here, she was still impressed with all the intricate designs. She studied and gazed at every fabric she could get her hands on. Even when he stepped out of the room, he could see that she was still too entranced to pay him any attention. He was getting impatient. It wasn't like he needed to see her with a swimsuit on. They were the only people on this island, so there wasn't anyone to interrupt them. Evelyn wasn't going to be in any danger, so he decided to leave her there. He shook his head and walked away with his surfboard. She was still in the closet, trying to find a swimsuit. She looked out the window, breathing in the fresh air of the sandy beaches. Her heart was thumping. This was the first time she'd ever been out of this city for something like this. Well, if she wasn't working yet, she might as well have fun. Besides, the water looked amazing. With this thought, her eyes fell on the black bikini at the end of the rack. Her eyes widened. This was the bikini that she had always wanted to buy, but it was too expensive. I've always wanted to try this on, she muttered to herself, and the size looks right. She held it up to her chest and decided to change. She just had to make sure that Harvey didn't see her. In New York City, Cindy couldn't help but glance at her phone. Every time she tried calling Evelyn, her number was out of service. This time she tried to call Mike, the restaurant manager she was good friends with. But when she heard his answers, she almost dropped her phone. You're saying Harvey helps her apply for 3 days of leave?
He said that she wouldn't be able to come to work for the next 3 days. Anyway, it's a good thing that she didn't come here. I heard that something happened in the alley 2 blocks up last night, Mike said, lowering his voice to a whisper. A few policemen came, but they didn't give us much detail. I had to close the restaurant early.
Oh, okay. Thank you. She didn't actually listen to a word he said. All she could think of was her friend's sudden disappearance. Something was off. She knew that her brother went to La Grenouille last night looking for Evelyn, but when she asked him about it later, he looked heartbroken. He wouldn't tell her anything about what happened. All he said was that he didn't want to marry Megan anymore. A part of her thought that it had something to do with Evelyn, but when she tried to call her, there was no answer. Where the heck was she? Could she be with Harvey? Harvey and Evelyn were very incompatible. In fact, she even offended him when she was a reporter. But why did it seem like they were having a relationship? What exactly was going on between them? She chewed on her bottom lip, unsure of her next step. What could Cindy do? Episode 30. Mr. Cage's Twisted Logic. On the island, Evelyn carefully passed through the forest and stood behind the rocks. From this angle, he wouldn't be able to see her. She sighed in relief as she gazed at her swimsuit. Not only did it fit her well, but it was also the model she had wanted to wear for ages. Now she could finally get in the water and relax. Although she thought that the black bikini was gorgeous, she didn't want to show it off to Harvey. The last thing she needed was for him to act all crazy again. She unwrapped her towel and stepped into the water. The waves splashed against her shoulders as she lay down on the sand. She could see Harvey surfing a mile away. The sunlight shone over him, showing off his very defined body. Even when he was surfing, he moved so elegantly. It looked like he was dancing with the water. His body was in perfect harmony with the sea. Then something behind him caught her eye. A giant wave. She was just about to swim towards him when she saw him break the waves in one go. She couldn't help but smile. He really was powerful. Crap, he's gonna see me if I go on like this. What the? She was just about to swim backward when she felt something tickle her back. When she looked down, she saw nothing but her bare skin and her swimsuit following along the strong currents. Fuck, my swimsuit! Harvey was about to move to shore when he noticed black fabric floating towards him. The waves were coming in strongly as its white crest pulled over him. He furrowed his eyebrows. What was that? He glanced at Evelyn, who was swimming in the water.
Evelyn, there's something in the sea,
he called out.
You should head back to the shore. She wanted to die right then and there. That thing was her swimsuit. As they were talking, a wave splashed against him, and so did the black fabric. Harvey lowered his head to see what it was. Then the corners of his mouth started to twitch. A swimsuit. Harvey glanced up at Evelyn once more. She was covering her chest with one arm and her face with the other hand. Her entire body was curled up in the middle of the sea. Despite the cold, her face was as red as a tomato. He couldn't help but laugh. While he was laughing, she ducked her head, hoping that the waves would just swallow her up. Under the sunlight, Harvey raised his hand and waved the black bikini up in the air. "I think I found something interesting in the waters. Do you want to see it?" he called out. Evelyn flushed dark red. "Shut up! Just give it to me!" With the way you're talking to me, I think I should just leave it alone in the sea," he said slowly, about to let the swimsuit fall from his fingertips. No, I'm sorry," she hurriedly said. "It's my fault. You're incredibly kind, Mr. Cage. Please, just give it back to me." Evelyn just wanted to cry out as she clutched her body. What the hell was she doing? She just wanted to try it on and swim in it, but it seemed like she hadn't tied the back tight enough. Now the straps loosened and the bikini fell off in the water. Now she was under Harvey's mercy. "Fine, since you asked nicely." He smiled and stepped towards her. But just as he was about to get closer, she jumped back. "Wait! Don't come any closer." "What?" He blinked. "Then how am I going to give it to you?" Her mouth twitched. "You can just throw it at me." "You're kidding, right? It's windy and the current is going against me." He frowned, gesturing at the surrounding scenery. "How am I going to throw it at you?" He made sense, but that didn't mean that Evelyn was convinced. She glanced at the currents as her toes dug into the sand. She took a deep breath and looked up at him. "Fine, come a little closer, but not too close." Harvey stared at her for a moment. Why was this woman always on guard when it came to him? They were in the middle of nowhere. No one could see them. Plus, haven't they already hooked up? She even owed him a favor. Thinking about it, he pursed his lips and stepped a bit closer. He followed her orders, handing her the swimsuit. "Thank you." She grabbed it and turned around to put it on. The seawater splashed against his abdomen as the water trickled down his V-line. All he could see was Evelyn's lean back. He imagined running his fingers down her smooth skin and felt his throat getting a bit tighter. God, she was trying to kill him. "It doesn't matter if you wear it or not." She heard his voice coming from behind her, but she was too busy tying a knot. "What do you mean? What was he talking about again?" "It doesn't matter, because you're about to take it off." He couldn't wait any longer. He wanted her now, and he was going to take her. "What?" Evelyn whirled around, but it was too late. She felt his tall, muscular body lean against her, and before she knew it, a strong arm wrapped around her waist. She felt herself being pulled back to shore. The seawater drops were sliding down their bodies as her chest was pressed against his. "Let's go back," he said roughly. He carried her on his shoulder. What the hell was happening? She struggled under his grip. "Hey, put me down! Where are you taking me? What are you doing? What was this madman planning?" Harvey raised his eyebrow. "I thought you promised yourself to me last night." "Last night?" The memories came back to her and her cheeks flushed bright red. She gulped and shook her head. "It's broad daylight. We can't." "So what? Nobody can see us anyway," he replied while carrying her through the woods. Once they finally arrived in his villa, he walked into the bathroom and placed her in the bathtub. "Take off your swimsuit." She crossed her arms. The cold surface rubbed against her back as her heart was racing in her chest. She felt his breath on her face as she ducked her head. "How about you go out first, then I'll take a bath." "Oh, but I want to take a bath too." "Then I'll leave. I'll come back when you finish," she said slowly. Her fair cheeks were still flushed red, and her lips looked a little more red as usual. The lamplight cast a yellow shadow over her, making her look even more alluring. He couldn't help himself any longer. His breath became faster as he hurried to untie her swimsuit. "Do you know how many countries have a water deficit? We should be responsible and save the resources. So, let's shower together." "You're just saying this to get what you want," she snapped. "Perhaps." He held up her chin and leaned just a bit forward. "But it's true." Without another word, he kissed her on the lips. The hot water fell on them as if they were in a waterfall. Her hands clenched on his torso. Before, she would have struggled to push him away. But now, all she could think about was the water running down her body. She could feel herself tremble as she closed her eyes. All she could do was succumb to his touch. While his groans were soft and gentle, his kiss tasted like honey. His fingers caressed her body as if he was holding a treasure. Was this the effect he had on everyone? All the walls she built up around her heart shattered at that moment. After all, they were on a small island. Here she felt alive, as if she was in another world. All she could see was him, and him alone. The sunset soon turned into night, and the stars appeared in the sky. Her body was now drenched with sweat as they had been making love for several hours. They went from the bathroom to the bed, entranced by each other's embrace. Even though she was exhausted, he was still full of energy. Then Harvey finally took a shower by himself. When he came back, he saw Evelyn lying on the bed. He sat down by her side and ran his fingers through her hair. "Are you still alive?" he teased. "What do you think, you bastard?" she snapped, wrapping herself with a small blanket. While her whole body felt weak, her eyes flashed with fire. She was only pretending to be annoyed. She secretly enjoyed being petted like that. It was just a small act of intimacy, but she appreciated it. She found herself pushing her head back, closing the gap between her head and his hand. Ever since her parents passed away, Evelyn tried her best to be strong. She wanted to support her brother through college, trying her best to contain all the negative emotions. Being vulnerable like this, it felt different. Her heart quivered. She gazed out the window and noticed the pitch-black sky and peaceful breeze. Suddenly something occurred to her. "You said we're filming for the commercial, right? What happened to the production team? Did they take the night flight or something?" Harvey lay down beside her. His dark hair was disheveled, making her want to run her hands through it. The corners of his lips twitched into a smirk as he said the last thing she wanted to hear. "They'll be arriving on the 3rd day. Until then, you and I will be the only people on the island." Her jaw dropped. "What did you say?" Oh, she was going to kill him. Harvey raised his eyebrows. "Do you want me to repeat myself? Fine. For the next 2 days, you and I are the only ones on this island. So as for cooking, I'll leave that to you." He shrugged. "I never learned how to cook." "What?" Appalled by his calm and arrogant attitude, Evelyn couldn't help but scowl. There was no way she was going to cook for him. "I'm not going to cook," she said firmly. She felt humiliated and wasn't going to let him make it even worse. "Are you sure?" He stared at her for a long time. His lips stretched into what seemed like a smile, but it had only infuriated her more. She averted her eyes. "You really can't cook?" "No." She suddenly found one of the walls behind her very interesting. "I just don't have the strength right now, you know?" "Ah." He shrugged. "Okay." Her eyes widened in surprise. "It's okay if I don't cook?" Harvey simply nodded in response. His fingers ran down the strands of her hair. He sighed. "It's fine. I don't have to eat. Besides, if I'm hungry, I can simply eat you." "What? I'm not food," she stuttered, pulling back, looking like a little bunny who was led into a trap. She struggled out of his grip. "You won't fill my stomach, but you'll taste just fine. Maybe even sweet." His eyes glinted. "Besides, if anything, I would like to eat you out far more." She scowled. If she was just going to subject herself to this teasing, she might as well get up and cook. She gulped and clenched her fists. "We still need to eat," she murmured. "Besides, I'm hungry. I'll get us some food." Forget it. She wasn't going to starve because of this. "Aren't you sweet?" With one last stroke of her hair, he slowly got out of bed. "I'll give you 2 hours. If I don't get to eat in 2 hours, well, that just leaves you and me." The terrifying devil had the nerve to walk out after he said this. Evelyn finally leaned back against the bed and breathed a sigh of relief. Her body felt much stronger now, unlike half an hour ago. Stretching, she turned to gaze outside the window. The curtains on the bay window were open, revealing the big trees and peaceful waves. The full moon was up in the sky, shining in all of its glory. Even now, she found it hard to believe that she was here, living in this paradise. She used to dream that she'd be on an island one day with the person she loved. It would have been so romantic to sail the waves and build sandcastles together. They'd be completely cut off from the world, leaving just the two of them and their love. There was a time when she was very jealous of any woman who stood next to Timothy. After all, Evelyn dreamt of going to an island with him. In the morning, she'd pick up a couple of clams from the beach and cook them for him. In the evening, they'd walk down the sandy beach watching the waves.
She didn't think that her ridiculous dream would soon come true. However, the person next to her wasn't Timothy, but a man she'd never expected to meet in her lifetime. I wonder how many women dream of this day. A slow smile slipped onto her lips. That thought soon faded, though. What the hell was she thinking? Being stuck with Harvey on a deserted island was a nightmare. Those women wouldn't know just how insufferable this man could be. Her face twisted with frustration as she looked away. Even though he brought her to this romantic island, she had to do everything herself. Even his handsome face wasn't worth it. He was just a rich man who wanted to order everyone around. She didn't want to live like this. Evelyn got up and headed to the shower, wrapped in a bathrobe. She stepped into the wardrobe and looked around. If Harvey had swimsuits waiting for her in the other walk-in closet, then she'd certainly have some clothes to wear here. But the only thing she found were racks of suits and casual polos. It was all of Harvey's clothes on the rack, and she couldn't find any women's clothes in there. There's no way. She felt disappointed. She saw a drawer and looked inside, only to discover dozens of pairs of underwear. He only packed my underwear, she gritted her teeth. There were dozens of outfits for him, but she only had a few sets of underwear. Was this a joke? Who the hell prepared this crap? Annoyed, she put on the underwear before scanning through his clothes. She yanked one of his shirts off the rack and put it on. The shirt was very big, but it only reached her mid-thigh. She was reluctant, but decided that this would do. It wasn't as if she had any other choice anyway. A part of her wanted to try his pants on too, but they were just too loose around her waist. Even if the quality of the fabric was good, she didn't have the time to trim them to fit her better. With no other choice, she stepped out of the bedroom. Harvey had already changed into some jogging pants and a baggy tee. He was sitting on the couch and watching one of the latest movies. Even while he was dressed casually, he still looked incredibly regal, as if he was ready for a photo shoot. When he turned his head towards Evelyn, his eyes widened. All he could see was her slender figure wrapped under an oversized shirt. Her long, beautiful legs were exposed, and the fabric rode up to her thighs with every step she took. Her cheeks were flushed as her hair fell to the sides of her face. She looked beautiful. What was this woman doing? I didn't expect you to flirt with me so much. He narrowed his eyes. Whose fault do you think it is? I wasn't able to pack any of my clothes, so I had to wear yours. She stomped her feet in anger. Which employee organized your closet? I need to speak to them. I see. He smiled. I need to find out who this employee is so I can give them a raise. She was furious. If you don't stop being an ass, I'll make sure the dinner is inedible. If the food is bad, then I can eat you instead. He shrugged. Ugh, this man was shameless. How was she going to survive here for the next 2 days? She gritted her teeth yet again and stomped into the kitchen. Knowing this man, the thought of cooking for him didn't make her happy. Stupid, stupid, she murmured under her breath as she pulled on the refrigerator door. There she found all the seasonings she would need. There were even a few packs of meat and fish in the freezer. She blinked. It looked like he was considerate enough to do some grocery shopping. The dinner turned out very delicious. He was lucky that she was nice enough to cook for him. Masking her scowl with a smile, she continued to dig into her food. Was her irritation just a mere pretense now? Had she finally come to terms with her fate and accepted Harvey in her life?